Welcome to Lotus Whisper. Tonight, we begin a journey deep into the quiet strength of the heart, exploring the ancient wisdom of turning the burning heat of anger into the soft, comforting warmth of compassion. Think, for just a moment, of anger. It settles in the body like a heavy, hard knot, doesn't it? Perhaps you feel it now, a residue of the day's frictions, a sharp word from a colleague, a moment of deep frustration, or a sense of injustice that lingers. It is an unseen fire, burning energy, making the mind tight and restless. It feels like a burden you carry, a heavy stone pressed against your chest, preventing the deep, restful fall into sleep. This is the weight of worry, the clinging to what is past. But the masters of the quiet mind, the Zen monks and the great teachers, understood this fire not as an enemy, but as raw energy. They saw that the same intensity that can destroy can also, with wisdom, be carefully channeled to illuminate and to heal. They taught that the heat of the fire must not be extinguished by force, but cooled by the vast, patient water of understanding. Tonight, we will learn how to approach this inner fire with gentleness, to dissolve the sharp edges of resentment, and to allow a profound sense of ease to wash over you. There is nothing you need to do now, no effort required, no conflict to win. Simply lie still. Feel the gentle support of your bed beneath you. Allow the stories and the quiet concepts to drift over you, softening the edges of your thoughts. Draw in a slow, deep breath. And as you exhale, imagine releasing all the tightness, all the clenching, all the heat you've gathered throughout the long day. You are safe here. You are letting go. We are preparing the mind for the deepest calm. If these stories bring a moment of peace to your evening, please consider subscribing to Lotus Whisper. Your support helps us share these timeless moments of tranquility and wisdom with others who seek rest. Part 1. The Seed of Burning. Recognizing the root of anger. Draw your attention back to your breath, sinking just a little deeper into the mattress. Let the weight of your head be fully supported by the pillow, your limbs heavy, your mind beginning its slow descent into the valley of quiet rest. In the great quiet halls of the ancient temples, the masters understood that the path to peace begins not with fighting the darkness, but simply with noticing the flame. To transform anger, we must first truly see it, not as a failure of character, but as a temporary, conditioned reaction, a dense cloud obscuring the blue, limitless sky of the mind. It is a symptom, not the core self. Anger, the Buddha taught, is a form of suffering. It is a desperate, often loud response to dukkha, the foundational unease, the subtle friction that arises from life not meeting our rigid expectations. We seek permanence where there is only ceaseless change, anicca. We demand a fixed, controllable self where there is only an ever-shifting process, anatta. And when the world or another person reminds us of our ultimate lack of control, the heat rises. This heat is not you. It is the powerful energy of resistance, the internal no to the flow of reality. We cling to fixed outcomes, to personal narratives, to the illusion that things should be otherwise than they are in this very moment. The moment we try to hold on to a perfect, unmoving situation, like the perfectly smooth day or the perfectly predictable life, we prepare ourselves for the sharp pain of its inevitable dissolving. Imagine a young monk, quiet and earnest, named Jizo. Jizo was assigned the task of tending the great oil lamps that illuminated the main hall of the monastery. It was a tedious, solitary task, a ritual of purification he performed every single evening. But Jizo was a man of fierce perfectionism. He believed the lamps must burn with an absolute, unwavering purity, a perfect metaphor for the ideal mind he sought. One evening, after hours spent meticulously trimming the wicks, purifying the oil and polishing the brass until it gleamed like a golden mirror. He returned to the hall. The air was still. The hall was silent. Yet as he neared the corner of the hall, he saw it. A faint gust of wind, rushing in through an old, unnoticed crack near the temple foundation, had caused one of the flames to sputter, flicker violently, and then blacken the delicate glass shade with a dark smudge of soot. A sharp, hot spike of frustration shot through Jizo. It wasn't just disappointment. It was a fierce internal burn that felt like a betrayal. How could this happen, he thought, his jaw clenching, his breath short and shallow. All my effort ruined by this careless, unseen wind. He wanted to lash out, to stamp his foot, to blame the inanimate crack in the wall, or the ancient carpenter who had built the temple imperfectly a century ago. The physical manifestation of the flame was small, but the internal fire consuming Jizo was suddenly enormous. He knelt there, staring at the small black smudge, seeing only the evidence of his ruined labor. His heart pounded against his ribs. This was not anger at a person. This was pure, frustrated rage at the very principle of imperfection, at the constant, irritating presence of change in a world he so desperately needed to be flawless and static. This is the heart of dukkha, the painful realization that nothing is permanent and everything we strive to fix is already in motion. An old, kind voice drifted from the shadows, steady and deep, like the distant resonance of a great bell. It was the abbot, Master Ika, who had been meditating nearby and silently observing. He was the very embodiment of stillness. "Jizo," the abbot said softly, his voice like the gentle stirring of silk in the quiet room. "What truly stains the glass?" Jizo, still breathing shallowly from his inner turmoil, simply pointed to the soot with a trembling finger. "A stain, master. A mistake. The result of carelessness." Master Eka lowered himself slowly, his movements deliberate, like the falling of a leaf. He did not look at the glass. He looked at Jizo's face, which was tight and drawn with heat and self-criticism. "The stain," the master replied, his gaze soft yet penetrating, "is not on the glass. The stain is the dark reflection of your own absolute expectation. You sought to capture the perfection of the light, but you forgot that light, by its very nature, consumes the oil, draws in the air, and produces the soot. The flame and the shadow are inseparable parts of the same act of burning. They are one process. Your dukkha is your insistence that the flame burn without the shadow." Jizo frowned, his mind still racing with the desire to fix the smudge, to fight the wind. He was too caught up in the effort to notice the subtle truth. Master Eka placed a warm, dry hand on the monk's tense shoulder, a touch that conveyed immense, patient understanding. "Tell me, Jizo, if you had not expected the flame to be perfectly constant, if you had not clung so fiercely to the idea of perfect maintenance, would the sight of the soot still burn you so fiercely right now?" The question hung in the quiet, dust-filled air, a profound challenge to Jizo's entire internal landscape. He sat back on his heels, and for the first time, he let the tension drop from his shoulders. He realized, with a sudden, chilling clarity that was also profoundly liberating, that the intense, painful heat he felt, the anger, the frustrated rage, had not come from the wind or the soot. It had come from the fierce resistance of his mind to the simple, unavoidable reality of imperfection and change. The wind was only a messenger. His expectation was the fuel for the fire. The energy of the burning flame was his own internal demand for control. This is the great, quiet lesson of the Zen heart. Anger is suffering born of grasping. We grasp at fixed outcomes, at personal control, at the illusion that things should be other than they are. The moment we try to hold on to a perfect, unmoving, idealized moment, we prepare ourselves for the pain of its inevitable dissolving. Now, as you settle deeper into your pillow, gently bring to mind a recent time you felt that burning. You don't need to relive the events, just feel the faint echo of the heat. Let your awareness settle on your body. Where did the anger reside? Was it a clenching in your jaw? A sudden tightness across your forehead? A hollow ache in your stomach? A heavy weight on your chest? Breathe into that place. Notice the resistance. When we get angry, the body contracts. We prepare for battle. The muscles tense, the breath quickens and becomes shallow. We are fighting the reality of the present moment. This contraction is the fuel Jizo was using, the tightening around an expectation. Imagine that inner heat now as Jizo's tiny, sputtering lamp. You are not trying to blow it out with
force, because force only fuels the wind and the smoke. You are simply observing it, allowing it to be, and recognizing that it is fueled not by the outside world, but by the subtle, insistent demand of your own mind for things to be otherwise. In this deep quiet, you can begin to loosen that demand. Imagine your consciousness as the entire hall, vast and peaceful. The anger is merely a small flickering light in one corner. The hall is not threatened by it. The hall contains it. Breathe. Inhale. Feel the vastness of the space around the anger. Exhale. Release the tight grip of the mind on the anger. The Master's teaching offers a great, profound release. If the stain is the reflection of our expectation, we do not need to clean the glass with furious scrubbing. We simply adjust the mirror of the mind. We let the expectation go. We allow the flame to flicker and the soot to form, knowing it is simply the nature of the conditioned world. When the expectation is released, the burning heat has nothing left to cling to. It becomes merely warmth, a neutral energy. This realization is the key to transformation. When you stop fighting the flow of reality, when you release the demand for things to be perfect or fair or fixed, the energy of the resistance, the anger, dissipates. It has nowhere to rest. Let the light of this simple realization that your anger is a conditioned response to clinging and resistance begin to profoundly cool your mind. Your body is becoming heavier now, sinking down, releasing its grip. Feel the release in your fingers, your toes, your forehead. Release your grip on the day. Release your grip on your expectations. Release your grip on the subtle internal heat. Just breathe. Long, slow, gentle breaths, like the quiet, rhythmic lapping of water against the old stone foundation of the temple. Slowly, patiently, cooling the memory of the fire. You are moving now from the heat of resistance toward the profound calm of acceptance. You are resting deeply in the understanding that everything, even your deepest frustration, is temporary. And in that passing, there is a profound, gentle rest. Now visualize yourself sitting with Master Eka. The temple hall is vast and cool. The air carries the faint, sweet scent of incense that burned hours ago, a memory of a peaceful moment. You are looking at the lamp, but the soot no longer holds your attention. Your attention is entirely on the space between the flame and the glass. The Master explains that the concept of dukkha is like an invisible wire strung taut between desire, the craving for things to be perfect, permanent, or pleasing, and reality, the nature of change, imperfection, and ultimate non-control. Anger is the sound the wire makes when it snaps. It is the scream of the ego demanding that the universe conform to its small, fragile blueprint. Think of the small, daily frustrations that cause that sharp intake of breath, the unexpected traffic, the canceled meeting, computer error. These are not grand tragedies, yet they can ignite a fire. Why? Because they violate the subconscious blueprint you carried into that moment. Your mind was clinging to the idea of the smooth journey, the successful meeting, the efficient technology. When the reality diverged, the instantaneous resistance of the mind created the heat. This is the power of the first step, honest recognition. You are learning to recognize the fuel. The fuel is not the outside event. The fuel is the internal, "I want it to be different" statement. Lie very still and listen to the sounds in your environment. Perhaps the distant hum of a machine, the gentle settling of your house, the sound of your own heart beating. Are you resisting any of these sounds? Do you wish they would stop? If you find a subtle resistance, a tiny internal pushback, just notice it. See the small seed-like anger beginning to sprout. Now, instead of pushing back, just say, silently, gently, "I allow this sound to be. I allow this moment to be." Feel the body relax just a fraction. This is the difference between fighting the river and floating upon it. The river is going to flow regardless of your wishes. Your resistance does not change the river. It only exhausts you. The anger is the self-inflicted exhaustion of fighting reality. Master Eka smiles, a small knowing crease around his eyes. He dips a finger into the purified lamp oil and traces a simple circle on the table. "Jizo," he says, "the heat you felt for the soot was not for the soot itself, but for the loss of the image of the perfect monk. You are angry at the imperfection because it threatened your self-image as the flawless caretaker." This is another subtle, potent realization. Anger is often a defense of the ego. We are angry because we feel threatened or wronged or unrecognized. We are defending the story we tell ourselves about who we are and how the world should treat us. But the deeper teaching is that this self you are defending is as impermanent as the flickering flame. It is a constantly changing collection of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. There is nothing fixed there to defend. When you realize the defender is an illusion, the need for the fire of defense, the anger, begins to cool. Let the light be soft. Let the sounds be what they are. Let the events of the day be merely the memories of passing clouds. You are letting go of the need to be right, the need to be in control, and the need to be fixed. Every time you inhale, feel peace flowing in. Every time you exhale, release a single strand of that internal resistance. Let the knots in your body unwind, from the sole of your feet, through your calves, your thighs, your hips, all the way up to the quiet hollow of your throat. The path to compassion starts right here, in this quiet, honest moment of recognition. My anger is my resistance to life. Rest in that vast open space of allowing. You are moving deeper, deeper into the calm. The oil is burning quietly now, not with a flicker of frustration, but with a steady, peaceful light. Feel the vastness of the quiet night surrounding you. The world is asleep, and you are being held in the profound stillness. The journey of transforming anger is simply the journey of returning to your natural, unresisting state. You are not fighting anymore.
You are floating. Let your mind drift gently, effortlessly, like a feather on a calm lake. Nothing to hold on to, nothing to fight. Just the breath, just the stillness, just the quiet. Now, as you begin to slip further away, remember Master Ekka's gentle hand on Jizo's shoulder. That quiet touch is on your own heart now, assuring you that the search for perfection is over. The reality of this moment, imperfect and changing as it is enough. It is more than enough. It is the perfect place for rest. Sleep deeply. Sleep softly. The illusion of the target, non-self, and the empty foe settle even deeper into the stillness. Feel the quiet weight of your body, a reassuring anchor in the vastness of the night. We left the young monk, Jizo, realizing that the stain on the lamp glass was merely the reflection of his own fierce expectation. Now, we turn our gaze from the inner enemy of clinging to the outer enemy, the person or situation we feel has caused us pain, the target of our anger. Tonight, we explore the powerful, liberating Buddhist concept of anatta, the doctrine of non-self. This is the key that unlocks the prison of blame and transforms the heat of rage into the cool, clear sight of understanding. When anger rises, it points a sharp, accusing finger outward. We see a fixed enemy. They wronged me. They were careless. They are fundamentally bad or stupid or unfair. We cling fiercely to the idea that the person who angered us is a solid, unchangeable entity, a fixed target that deserves our full, burning retaliation. But the Zen masters teach that the target we see is an illusion, just as our own ego is a temporary collection of thoughts and feelings. The person standing before us, even the person who hurt us deeply, is also empty of a fixed, permanent self. They are a shifting shadow, driven not by malice, but by their own set of painful, momentary conditions. They, too, are suffering dukkha. Imagine a time long ago in a quiet farming village nestled against the mountains. There lived a young farmer named Kenji, who was known for his diligence and also, unfortunately, for his fierce, enduring grudges. Kenji tended a small, precise plot of rice, and his life was dictated by order. Kenji had a rival, another farmer named Hiroshi, who was known for his quick temper and his habit of speaking before thinking. One scorching summer day, when the life-giving stream was low, Hiroshi, needing water desperately for his own wilting crops, hastily opened the communal sluice gate a little too wide, diverting water for an hour longer than was allowed by village agreement. The result was minor but devastating to Kenji's fiercely guarded sense of order. A corner of Kenji's field was left dry, resulting in a slightly lower yield. The anger Kenji felt was vast, consuming, and cold as iron. Hiroshi did this deliberately, he convinced himself. He is a selfish, uncaring man. Kenji didn't just feel angry about the lost crop. He felt rage towards the idea of Hiroshi, the fixed, selfish, unchanging enemy he had created in his mind. For the next 5 years, Kenji carried this grudge like a heavy, unseen sack of stones. He would cross the street to avoid Hiroshi. He would turn his head away during village meetings. Every morning when he saw that slightly dry corner of his field, the anger would flare, reinforcing his belief that Hiroshi was the absolute, fixed foe. Kenji felt justified, but he never felt peace. The stone of resentment was heavier than any bag of rice he ever harvested. One cold winter, a wandering Zen mendicant, Master Shoda, came to the village, seeking shelter. Kenji, being the most organized villager, was tasked with looking after the master's simple needs. One evening, Kenji found himself pouring tea for the master, and the bitterness of his heart spilled out in words. He spoke of the injustice, the 5 years of bitterness, the fixed selfishness of Hiroshi. He spoke of the enemy. Master Shoda listened patiently, his hands warm around his teacup, his eyes gazing past Kenji to the swirling snowflakes outside the window. "Tell me, Kenji," the master finally said, his voice quiet, like dry leaves rustling. "If I were to ask you who Hiroshi is right now, at this very moment, sitting in his hut, what would you say?" Kenji scoffed. "He is a selfish man, master, a thief of water, a careless rival. He is fixed in his poor character." Master Shoda nodded slowly. "A fixed entity, a solid, unchanging enemy. But look at the snowflake on the window pane, Kenji. Is it the same flake that began falling an hour ago? Is it the same water it was yesterday? It shifts, it melts, it takes on the shape of the pane. Then it turns to mist and is gone." He took a slow sip of tea. "The person you call Hiroshi is just as fluid. The Hiroshi who diverted the water 5 years ago was driven by conditions. A low stream, a fear of losing his own crop, a momentary lack of mindfulness due to the heat. That collection of fear, conditions, and thought has long since dissolved." The master leaned closer, his gaze intensely kind. "The man sitting in his hut right now is a new collection of conditions. Perhaps he is sad. Perhaps he is regretful. Perhaps he is driven by a deep need to provide for his family. He is not the solid, fixed enemy you are carrying in your heart. You are carrying a heavy statue of a man who no longer exists, and you call the statue Hiroshi. Your anger is not aimed at a living person, but at an empty memory you have filled with your own judgment." This is the profound, liberating truth of anatta in the context of anger. The person who causes us pain is not a permanent, malicious fixture. They are a momentary manifestation of causes and conditions, their own exhaustion, their own unhealed wound, their own momentary lack of wisdom. When you direct your anger at them, you are shooting a sharp arrow at a phantom. The only thing you injure is your own peace. You cling to the fixed self of the aggressor, which forces you to cling to the fixed self of the victim, yourself. And the friction between these two rigid, illusory selves generates all the intense heat. As you lie there now, feel the deep, supporting surface beneath you. Slowly, gently, bring to mind the individual or the situation that is the current target of your resentment or frustration. Now, apply the master's teaching. Do not see them as the solid enemy you have built in your mind. See them instead as a constantly changing flow of elements. A body, aging, tired, hungry, or resting. Feelings, momentary joy, fear, confusion, or their own residual pain. Perceptions, a limited, conditioned view of the world based on their unique past. Mental formations, intention, their momentary intention, driven perhaps by stress, not deep-seated malice. Consciousness, a constantly shifting awareness, now clear, now clouded. If you can see the person who hurt you as merely this ever-changing collection,
where is the fixed target? The fixed enemy vanishes, revealing a person who is driven by conditions, just as you are. They are suffering, just as you suffer when you are angry. Kenji sat in the presence of Master Shoda, letting the words sink into his 5 years of frozen bitterness. He realized the joy he felt in sustaining the grudge was gone, replaced by a deep exhaustion. The anger had become his identity. He was more attached to the story of Hiroshi the enemy than he was to his own peace. Master Shoda continued, his voice softer now, moving Kenji from recognition to acceptance. The greatest error, the master explained, is to believe that the pain you felt came from Hiroshi. The pain was the first arrow, the loss of the crop. The suffering, the 5 years of resentment, came from the second arrow, your own persistent belief that Hiroshi is a solid, fixed villain who deserved to occupy your mind every day. You chose to carry the heavy statue. Kenji finally understood. The water thief was gone. The selfish memory was an internal construction. By letting go of the fixed idea of the enemy, Kenji could finally let go of the fixed idea of the victim he had become. The two fixed selves dissolved together, leaving behind only the quiet, flowing reality of the present moment. The true transformation is realizing that compassion is not something you do for the other person. It is the natural consequence of seeing them clearly, without the distorting lens of a fixed ego. When you see their anatta, their emptiness of a fixed self, you see their suffering. And when you see their suffering, the fire of anger naturally turns into the cooling water of sympathy. Settle deeper. We are now letting go of the need for an enemy. Imagine all the people who have caused you frustration today, or this week, or in the past. See them now, not as solid targets, but as translucent, moving forms, like figures made of water, always flowing, always changing. Breathe deeply, a long, calming inhalation and a deep, full exhalation. With each breath, repeat this silent thought, letting it soften the edges of your mind. They are not a fixed person. They are suffering conditions. Inhale. I see the conditions that drove their action: stress, fear, pain. Exhale. I release the fixed, heavy identity of the enemy. The resentment you carry is a contract you signed with a memory. Tonight, you are tearing up that contract. You are deciding that your peace is more valuable than being right. This is the great work of the Bodhisattva, the compassionate warrior. It is not about letting others off the hook. It is about taking yourself off the hook of endless retaliation and internal war. Let the image of the person who caused you pain become fainter now, more translucent, more like a passing cloud against the vast, dark night sky. They are just passing through. They are not permanent. Their action was not permanent. Your response does not need to be permanent. The story of Kenji reminds us that our bitterness only holds us captive. 5 years of peace were lost because he clung to a heavy statue he had carved himself. Tonight, you are dropping that statue. Hear the soft thud as the burden falls away, and feel the lightness that immediately replaces it. Your muscles are relaxing now. Your jaw is loosening. The knots in your chest are unraveling. The resistance is gone. When there is no fixed self to defend and no fixed enemy to attack, there is only the quiet, vast, supporting space of the present moment. You are not Kenji, clinging to the dry patch of land. You are the mountain itself, which remains unmoved by the small squabbles of the water flowing at its base. You are simply observing. You are moving now, fully and profoundly, into a state of
deep calmness. The understanding of non-self is the beginning of compassion because you recognize that the other person is fundamentally no different from yourself, a bundle of conditions seeking happiness, often stumbling blindly into actions that cause pain, both to others and to themselves. Let this deep, soft realization cradle you. There is no enemy. There is only the flow of condition. Rest in this truth. Let the wisdom of anatta dissolve all internal conflict. Sleep comes now, not as an escape, but as the natural settling of a mind that has finally laid down its weapons. Imagine yourself as the stream itself, flowing past Kenji's and Hiroshi's fields. The water knows no enemy. It only knows flow. It is diverted by the stone, but it does not get angry at the stone. It simply flows around it, continuing its path. The water is resilient because it is fluid. It has no fixed shape to be threatened. Your consciousness in this moment is as fluid as the water. There is no rigid boundary between you and the quiet night. Your thoughts flow gently without turbulence. Your breath flows in and out, effortless and deep. You have recognized the illusion of the fixed self in others, and in doing so, you have released the burden of your own fixed self as the wronged victim. This is true freedom. Let go now of the last thread of the day's events. Trust the quiet strength of the water. Trust the wisdom of the empty form. You are sinking deeper, lighter, and safer into the profound calm of the sleeping world. Feel the profound release in your heart. The place that was tight with judgment is now open, vast, and quiet. The absence of a fixed enemy leaves a great, soothing emptiness, the quiet space where true rest begins. You are utterly secure in this fluid reality. Just breathe and drift. Let your mind become the quiet, flowing stream. Nothing to resist. Nothing to defend. Just peace. The pause before the spark, mindful breath as the first gate. Settle even deeper into the stillness. Feel the quiet weight of your body, a reassuring anchor in the vastness of the night. We have recognized the root of anger in clinging, Part 1, and dissolved the illusion of a fixed enemy, Part 2. Now we arrive at the most practical, immediate, and powerful tool for transformation, the mindful breath. In the rhythm of the monastery, the quietest teaching is often the most powerful. It is the wisdom of the space, the invisible, infinitesimal gap between when a provocation occurs and when our mind ignites in reaction. This space is the doorway to absolute freedom, and the key to finding this door is the simple, honest, and ever-present act of breathing. We have established that anger is fueled by the fixed idea of how things should be. When that expectation is challenged, the heat rises instantaneously. This is the moment of crisis, the split second when the fire is still just a spark. If we react immediately, the spark becomes an inferno, consuming both ourselves and others. The Zen masters teach that we must learn to occupy that split second, to find the pause, before the mind can construct its narrative of blame and hurt. This pause is not a philosophical debate. It is purely physiological, anchored in the body through the deliberate, mindful rhythm of respiration. Imagine a time when the Buddha spoke of anger. He described it as a wild, charging horse, driven by the raw energy of conditioned impulse. The average person, without training, is immediately pulled along by the horse, dragged through the dust and stones of conflict, utterly out of control. The wise person, however, finds the reins and pulls back, just enough to stop the blind charge and see where the horse is running. That rein is the deep, conscious breath. In the tradition, there is the story of a young monk named Kenshin who struggled terribly with the virtue of patience, kushanti. Kenshin was a meticulous and inwardly quiet man, assigned to the communal kitchen, a bustling, often chaotic place where tempers flared easily due to the intense heat and the constant demand to feed hundreds of monks. Kenshin's primary job was to grind the grains for the daily porridge, a repetitive, monotonous task requiring the precise, rhythmic movement of a heavy stone mill. Kenshin's anger was typically triggered by noise and disorder, the shattering of his internal quiet. If another monk dropped a pot, or if the rhythm of the chopping block next to him became erratic, Kenshin's focus would shatter instantly. He would feel a hot surge of adrenaline up his neck, his jaw would lock so tight he couldn't speak, and the calm he had built in his morning meditation would be instantly erased. He would want to shout, to demand silence, to impose his internal order onto the messy, chaotic external world, the same desire for static perfection that drove Jizo. One morning, the venerable abbot, Master Ryokan, walked into the kitchen and found Kenshin rigidly standing over his grain mill, hands clenched so tightly his knuckles were white, eyes shut, visibly trembling with suppressed rage because a novice had just spilled a large tray of beans with a loud, clattering crash. The heat was not just from the ovens, it was radiating from Kenshin. Master Ryokan did not scold him. He simply put his hand on the grinding handle next to Kenshin's rigid hand and began to turn the mill, slowly, smoothly, creating a low, soothing whoosh of stone on stone. "Kenshin," the master said, his voice barely audible above the dull sound of the turning mill. "The moment the beans hit the floor, your mind saw chaos and your body prepared for war. Tell me, in that crucial moment, where did your awareness go?" Kenshin whispered through tight lips, his voice strained. "It went to the noise, master, to the mess, to the immense disruption of my carefully maintained order." "No," the master gently corrected, his eyes looking not at Kenshin, but at the rising and falling of Kenshin's tense chest. "It went to the thought that immediately arose. This shouldn't be happening. This is wrong. I must stop it." And in that first fraction of a second, your breath deserted you. You held it tight, like a loaded weapon, ready to spring out with a word of anger. He stopped the mill completely. The only sound was the residual creak of the wooden rafters. "The fire is fast, Kenshin. It is faster than thought. It is a raw, biological reaction to a perceived threat. You cannot stop the spark from the event, but you can instantly interrupt the fuel line. The fuel line is the held breath, the contracted diaphragm, the tense, shallow chest." Master Ryokan then gave Kenshin the simplest, most profound instruction for the rest of his life. "The very moment you feel the first tremor of heat rise in your body, the first sign of friction in the chest or throat, your only task is to abandon the mind and lengthen the exhale." He demonstrated, drawing in a full, slow breath deep into the belly until his robes gently billowed, and then letting it sigh out, a profound, audible release that seemed to instantly melt the tension in the space around them. "The inhalation is acceptance," the master explained. "You take in the reality of the dropped beans, the loud noise, the profound irritation. You do not resist it. The out-breath is the physical release of the expectation, the letting go of the demand. When you lengthen the exhale, you send a direct, undeniable signal to your body's nervous system that the acute danger is past. You physically, instantly, cool the rising heat. You choose the pause. The master told Kenshin to try this single, small practice for the rest of the day, making it a vow of the breath. Kenshin returned to the mill. A few minutes later, the novice, still clumsy, accidentally slammed a heavy door with a sound that echoed throughout the hall. Instantly, Kenshin felt the familiar hot spike. His muscles began their habitual, urgent tightening. But this time, he caught the feeling, the very first tremor of friction, before the narrative of blame could form. He did not chase the thought, "Why is that door so loud?" Instead, he immediately dropped his attention directly into his belly, drew a breath in, accepting the sound, and then let it pour out, slow and deliberate, until his lungs were completely empty. As the breath lengthened, something marvelous happened. The intense rush of adrenaline, the physiological preparation for anger, began to ebb instantly. The sharp edges of the frustration softened, blurred, and dissolved. The tight knot in his jaw, which had been preparing to speak a harsh, regrettable word, simply loosened. By the time his exhale was complete, the incident, the slammed door, was already several seconds in the past. He had successfully created the pause. He had used the wisdom of the body to bypass the madness of the reactive mind. This practice is the fundamental discipline for transforming all internal conflict. Mindful respiration as the immediate, non-negotiable intervention. Now, as you lie quietly, let us practice this together, moving deeper into the calmness of the breath. You do not need a loud kitchen or a sudden crash. Your mind, in the pre-sleep state, will provide its own subtle noise, the persistent loop of a worry, the shadow of a guilt, the feeling of a thought you can't quite grasp. We are moving from a state of worry and tension toward profound, unshakable calmness. Feel the anchor. Become intensely aware of your breath, not just the cool air flowing through your nostrils, but the deep, gentle, rhythmic movement of your lower abdomen. Let your belly rise softly on the inhale and fall completely on the exhale. The signal. Imagine the subtle tension, the slight flicker of impatience or residual anxiety you might feel from the day. It is merely a signal, a tiny spark asking for attention. The pause, the exhale. When you notice that spark, or any tension in your body, make your next exhale distinctly twice as long as the inhale, without straining. Breathe in for a quiet count of 3. And breathe out, slowly, gently, completely, for a count of 6. Continue to breathe in this rhythm. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let the exhalation be like a soft wave receding from a peaceful shore, dragging all the tiny granules of tension, all the little fragments of worry, all the last vestiges of resistance, back out to the sea. The gentle, silent sound of the exhale is the sound of absolute surrender. The Zen masters call this the gate of non-contention. You are not fighting the anger or the worry. You are simply refusing to give it the compressed air it needs to explode. You are using the simple biological mechanism of the breath to introduce a profound physiological and psychological cooling. The long exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, actively shutting down the body's fight-or-flight response. With every long, slow out-breath, feel the muscles in your forehead soften and drop. Feel the vast, open space between your eyebrows. Feel the unnecessary weight in your shoulders, your upper back, and your neck, simply dissolving, draining down into the mattress. Imagine yourself now not as Kenshin struggling in the loud kitchen, but as a vast, quiet, deep blue lake in the high mountains. A pebble, an irritating event, is thrown into the lake. It makes a ripple. If you hold your breath and tense your body, the ripple becomes a violent wave, crashing against the rigid shores of your mind. But if you maintain the slow, deep, long exhale, the breath becomes the vast, surrounding atmosphere that gently smooths the surface of the water, absorbing the ripple instantly until the surface is once again perfectly still. The key is that this must be your absolute priority. You must find the pause before the mind constructs the elaborate, destructive narrative of blame. The full, long breath interrupts the automatic, animal reaction. It is a radical act of self-sovereignty. It restores the higher, clearer wisdom of the compassionate and stable mind. The Buddha's teaching on right action begins with right thought, and right thought begins with right respiration. When the breath is calm and long, the mind is steady. When the mind is steady, the wisdom we discussed, the understanding of non-clinging, of non-self, can actually be remembered and applied. This extended exhale is a physical manifestation of patience, kshanti, the perfection of endurance. You are enduring the brief, intense flash of heat or anxiety without immediately giving into it. You are simply waiting, patiently, with your body relaxed, for the initial surge of chaotic energy to pass. It always passes. No feeling, no matter how intense, lasts forever. All feelings are as impermanent as the smoke from a candle. Continue the deep restorative breathing. In. And long, slow, quiet out. Feel the cool, clean air enter your body and carry that soothing coolness down your spine, spreading outward to your arms and legs. Sense your entire body growing heavier, more relaxed, and perfectly still. Let the weight of your eyelids feel immense. Your entire face is softening. Your tongue is unsticking from the roof of your mouth. Your eyebrows are smoothing out. The space between your eyes, the precise place where stress and focused effort often concentrate, is now vast, open, and utterly empty. With the next cycle of breath, let the exhalation be the sound of a great, necessary sigh of relief. You are finally, truly, letting go of the need to be on guard. You are surrendering to the quiet. This deep, conscious breath is your constant sanctuary. No matter the chaos of the outside world, no matter the sharpness of the words spoken in memory, no matter the frustration that arises in the morning, you always have this tiny, immediate, unassailable space of freedom, the length of your exhale. Trust the breath now to carry you deeper than any thought can reach. It is rocking you gently, a rhythmic, tireless cradle that requires no effort from you. Every single breath is a new beginning, a fresh start, an instant chance to drop the heavy burden of the past moment. The past moment is already gone. You are safe. You are steady. You are calm. The mind is quiet. The body is heavy. The only task remaining is to allow the gentle current of the breath to carry you effortlessly into the profound relaxation of sleep. There is no more grasping, no more resisting. There is only the vast, open space of the long, slow, soothing exhale. Let the conscious counting fade now. Allow the breath to simply breathe itself. You are resting in the profound wisdom of the body, which knows how to heal, how to rest, and how to release. The breath is the thread connecting you to the ultimate peace, the vast stillness of the awakened mind. Feel the profound release in your nervous system. The tightness is gone. The anger has no purchase. You are utterly secure in this fluid reality, held by the gentle in and out of the life force itself. Drift deeply. The mirror of impermanence, watching the anger rise and fall. You are resting now in a state of profound stillness, having used the long exhale to cool the internal spark. We now turn our attention to the great, liberating truth that underpins all Buddhist wisdom. Anicca, the universal, relentless reality of impermanence. In the context of anger, impermanence is your greatest ally. Anger feels absolute, doesn't it? When the heat surges, the mind cries out, "This feeling will consume me forever. This injustice will never end. This person will always be my antagonist." This feeling of permanence is the mind's great delusion, the sticky lie that keeps the fire burning. The masters teach us that anger is merely a temporary cluster of sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Like a sudden storm, it gathers, it rages, and then, inevitably, it passes. Your task now is not to fight the storm, but to become the witness, the unchanging sky that simply watches the clouds gather and dissolve. Imagine the tale of Master Ikkyu, a Zen monk known for his profound and sometimes eccentric wisdom, who lived many centuries ago in the mountains of Japan. Ikkyu was the abbot of a small, quiet temple, and he was known for his imperturbable patience, a quality that seemed to defy the petty frictions of daily life. The villagers, wishing to test his legendary composure, decided to send a renowned provocateur to the temple, a man named Goro, whose words were as sharp and venomous as a serpent's bite. Goro was famous for his ability to find the flaw in any person and exploit it with cold, calculated cruelty. Goro arrived at the temple gates, bowed with an exaggerated, mocking reverence, and was ushered into Ikkyu's simple, light-filled meditation room. Ikkyu sat perfectly still on his cushion, his hands resting gently in his lap, his breath deep and even, ready to receive the guest. Goro began his attack. He insulted the master's appearance, calling him frail and weak. He insulted his lineage, calling his teachings worthless shadows of true wisdom. He mocked the simplicity of the temple, calling it poor and desolate. He insulted Ikkyu's disciples, calling them lazy fools. He spoke with continuous, escalating bitterness for a full hour, pouring out a torrent of calculated cruelty designed to breach the master's tranquility. During the entire time, Ikkyu did not move. He did not tighten his jaw. He did not close his eyes in frustration. He did not even shift his weight. He simply sat, utterly present, watching the flow of the man's bitter words. When Goro finally exhausted himself, his voice raw, his face flushed and glistening with effort, he fell silent. The air, which moments before had been vibrating with harsh sound, was now perfectly still. Goro, panting slightly, waited for the master's angry retaliation, for the explosion of offended ego he had sought to provoke. Instead, Ikkyu slowly lifted his cup and poured Goro a fresh, steaming cup of green tea. He then spoke, his voice gentle and low, like the quiet sound of stream water flowing over smooth stones. "Goro," Ikkyu said calmly, "you have offered me an immense gift. I thank you." Goro stared, bewildered and furious. "A gift? What foolishness! I offered you nothing but scorn and truth." Ikkyu smiled. "You offered me a gift, Goro,
which I chose not to receive. The master picked up a small, smooth stone from the windowsill and held it out. Imagine this stone is your venomous accusation, your harsh judgment. If I reach out and take this stone from your hand,
Then the burden of that stone becomes mine, and I carry the weight of your words. Ikkyu paused, letting the silence expand. But if I do not reach out, if I simply observe the stone being offered and make no movement to accept it, where does the burden of the stone remain, Goro? Goro, stunned by the sheer simplicity and profound truth, realized the devastating answer. The burden remains with the giver. Ikkyu continued, Your anger, your insults, your fury, these are the stone. They appeared in the room. I watched them rise. I watched them swirl, but they were never mine. I did not grasp them. I did not identify with them, and therefore I did not make them permanent. I watched them like a passing cloud or a sudden rain shower. They came, they exhausted their energy, and they passed. They have vanished, just like all feelings eventually vanish. This is the central teaching of anicca applied to the emotional landscape. Anger only hurts you when you grasp it and treat it as a permanent feature of your identity. By simply watching the feeling, the heat, the tightening, the racing thoughts, you apply the mirror of impermanence. You are allowing the process to unfold without giving it extra energy. Now, lying where you are, breathing softly and deeply, let us practice this non-grasping observation. We are moving from calmness into profound relaxation. Gently call to mind the residual emotion from the day. It might be a faint echo of impatience, a whisper of regret, or a tiny spark of unresolved frustration. Do not judge it. Do not analyze it. Do not try to push it away. Simply look at it, using the master's calm, steady gaze. It is a sensation. Locate the feeling in your body. Is it a buzzing in your head, a hollowness in your belly, a pressure in your chest? Feel it purely as a physical sensation, divorced from the story attached to it. It is just energy. It is impermanent. As you watch this sensation, remind yourself, this too is passing. Watch the sensation change, even minute by minute. The tightness you felt a moment ago has already shifted, loosened, or moved. It is never the same. It is an act of relentless, internal movement. Non-identification. Repeat the silent mantra, this is not me. This is just happening. You are not the anger. You are the vast open space in which the anger appears and dissolves. You are the sky, and the anger is the cloud. The cloud does not stain the sky. This act of non-grasping observation is the most effective way to cool the fire. When you stop feeding the fire of anger with the fuel of identity, I am a wronged person, and permanence, this will last forever. The fire naturally starves and collapses in on itself. Ikkyu's ultimate teaching in that moment was the practice of non-response. He understood that the insulter's energy had an endpoint. By refusing to meet the aggression with reciprocal energy, he allowed Goro's outburst to simply complete its natural cycle of rising and falling. Think of a bonfire. If you throw dry wood onto it, it rages higher. If you do nothing, it will burn down to embers and finally to cold ash. The practice of non-grasping is the refusal to throw that extra piece of dry wood, the thought of revenge, the rumination on the injustice, the internal repetition of the harsh word. Just let it burn out. Settle your entire being into this gentle, patient watching. Your body is becoming incredibly heavy now, perfectly supported. Your breathing is slow, effortless, and deep. Visualize the entire process of an emotion as a wave, forming out in the deep sea of consciousness.
The rise, the trigger. A small ripple of irritation begins. You acknowledge it. Ah, there is a wave forming. The peak, the anger. The wave crests. It feels overwhelming, loud, and powerful. You watch it with infused patience. The wave is very high now. The fall, the release. The wave, having reached its maximum height, must inevitably crash back into the ocean. The energy disperses. You witness this decline. The energy is returning to the source. The wise person's discipline is to remain the ocean, vast, deep, and utterly unperturbed by the temporary drama on its surface. Let the final threads of any residual emotional pain from the day wash over you now. Do not hold on to them. Do not push them away. Simply observe them with this profound, gentle detachment. They are simply memories of waves that have already passed. Feel the profound security that comes with this knowledge. No feeling can ever harm you, because no feeling can ever stay. Your mind is clearing. The emotional clouds are dispersing, revealing the clear, open sky of deep awareness. This is the truth of impermanence made real in your body, the utter lack of fixedness, the constant flow of peace underneath the surface turbulence. Now, allow the rhythmic sound of your own gentle breathing to lull you further into rest. The watching itself requires no effort. It is passive, quiet, and deeply soothing. Imagine the atmosphere in Ikkyu's room after Goro left. It was a space purified not by fighting, but by non-resistance. The air was cool and clean. Every object, the wooden floor, the stone windowsill, the smooth cup of tea, seemed perfectly settled in its own moment. This is the atmosphere you are creating within your own mind now, a space perfectly settled and free from the heat of contention. You are moving now into the state of profound deep sleep. This deep rest is not an escape from impermanence. It is the ultimate expression of it. You are releasing your conscious identity for a time, allowing the collection of thoughts and tensions to completely dissolve, knowing that the basic, pure energy of life will continue its work without your interference. Let your hands feel limp and heavy. Let your feet flop outward. Feel the profound rest in the very center of your being, the place that remains steady even when storms rage. This stillness is your true nature, the vast sky itself. Let the last thoughts of the day, any stray memories or minor worries, drift out of your awareness, like the final few wisps of smoke disappearing into the night air. They are not important. They are not permanent. They are simply passing. Rest deeply in the knowledge that you are whole, complete, and utterly safe. The cycle of the day is done. The cycle of the breath is gentle. The cycle of sleep is upon you. Just watch the passing. Just rest in the profound truth of the passing. Sleep now. Sleep deeply, peacefully, and completely. The mirror of impermanence reflects only peace, the gift of the robe, generosity, and breaking the cycle. Settle now into a state of deep, effortless letting go. Your body is a vessel of quiet rest, anchored by the long, slow rhythm of your breath. We have learned to observe the anger as a passing cloud, impermanence, and to cool its heat with the deliberate, deep exhale, mindfulness. Now we introduce the most radical, counterintuitive transformation, using the virtue of generosity, dana, to dissolve the very fuel of aversion. Anger, at its heart, is a contracting energy.
It is the instinct to grasp, to hold on to the feeling of being right, to cling to what was lost, to clutch the expectation that was violated. It is a closing of the heart, a fierce preservation of the ego's boundaries. The Buddhist antidote to this contraction is its direct opposite: expansion. We overcome the grasping nature of anger with the freeing energy of giving, of radical, non-defensive generosity. When we give something away, whether a possession, a kind word, or even our right to an argument, we create a lightness in the heart that resentment cannot penetrate. The mind becomes vast, open, and incapable of holding a grudge. Centuries ago, deep in the jungles surrounding a great city, lived a small community of mendicant monks. Among them was an elderly bhikkhu named Ananda, a man known not for his profound knowledge of the sutras, but for his luminous, childlike simplicity and his gentle, unwavering spirit. Ananda owned almost nothing. His few possessions consisted only of his bowl, his razor, and the patchwork robe he wore, which served as his sole protection against the cool jungle nights and the hot days. Ananda often walked the quiet, dusty road that led from the jungle grove to the town, where he would go on his alms round, receiving a small portion of rice or curry from the villagers. His presence was a quiet blessing, a reminder of simplicity and peace. One evening, as the sun was setting and the light faded quickly beneath the dense canopy, Ananda was approached on the lonely path by a man named Deva. Deva was a known vagabond, a man whose life was fueled by resentment and suspicion, who believed the world was fundamentally cruel and owed him everything. Deva saw the monk and saw only an easy target, a symbol of the spiritual comfort he lacked. Consumed by a sudden petty surge of bitterness, Deva stopped Ananda and confronted him. He began to rage, accusing Ananda of arrogance, of living easily while others suffered, and of hoarding the best paths through the jungle. Deva's words were sharp, fueled by his own internal suffering, and quickly escalated. Finally, seeing that his words had no effect on the monk's calm demeanor, Deva lunged. He tore at Ananda's robes, ripping the outer layer, demanding money or food. In the confusion, he also snatched Ananda's simple bamboo staff, the monk's only aid for walking. Most people would react with fear, self-defense, or, later, with the cold fire of justified anger. Ananda, however, was trained in the wisdom of non-self. He saw Deva not as a fixed villain, but as a terrified, suffering collection of conditions, a desperate man, driven by poverty, rage, and confusion. Ananda did not see an enemy to fight. He saw a person deeply enslaved by his own grasping. As Deva stood there, clutching the staff and a piece of the torn robe, breathing heavily in his exertion, Ananda did the truly radical thing. He lowered his gaze, took a step back, and instead of defending his remaining garment, he gently took hold of the single, seamless, inner robe he was wearing, the one piece of cloth that protected him from the elements. Slowly, deliberately, and without a single word of reproach or condemnation, Ananda slipped the robe from his shoulder. It was a simple, beautiful garment, hand-stitched and imbued with the gentle discipline of years. He then held it out to Deva, offering it with both hands, palms up, the universal gesture of generous giving. "Take this, friend," Ananda said, his voice quiet and immensely kind, like a cool stream on a hot day. "The outer robe is torn, but this one is whole. You seem to be in greater need of protection tonight than I am. May this warm you and keep you safe." The silence that followed was immense. The air was thick with the weight of the moment, a clash between contraction and expansion. Deva, who was prepared for a fight, for an angry defense, for a desperate plea, was utterly paralyzed. His mind, which was organized around the logic of taking and retaliation,
simply could not process the act of radical, unconditional giving. The generosity was so immense, so unearned, so pure, that it rendered his anger completely void. If Ananda had become angry, Deva would have been affirmed. See, everyone is selfish. I was right to steal. The cycle of violence and resentment would have continued. But Ananda's act was a shock to Deva's entire system. The gift of the robe was not just a piece of cloth. It was a profound act of non-clinging. Ananda demonstrated that he valued his peace more than his possession, and he valued the well-being of the suffering person before him more than his own perceived right to comfort. Deva stood frozen, his grasping hand holding the stolen staff, now completely confused by the generous hand offering the robe.
Seamless robe. His anger, finding no fuel in Ananda's heart, began to collapse in on itself, revealing the hollow core of his own pain. He saw not a weak monk, but a person of immense internal strength, a strength built on giving, not defending. After a long, shuddering moment, the staff fell from Deva's hand, hitting the dusty path with a soft thud. He was unable to take the robe. He simply turned and stumbled away into the jungle, leaving the robe and the staff untouched. He had been so overwhelmed by the sheer unresisting force of the monk's compassion that his own resentment could not stand in its presence. This story of the gift of the robe is the ultimate teaching on transforming the heat of anger with the cool light of generosity. Dana. As you lie still now, begin to apply this lesson to your own heart and mind. We are moving deeply into relaxation, dissolving the final remnants of the day's stress. Anger holds things tight. It holds the memory of the mistake, the harsh word, the injustice. It demands payment. Generosity releases all of this. It says, I give away my right to be right. I give away my need for your apology. I give away the story of my victimization. Think about a small, specific resentment that still clings to your mind. Perhaps a small petty slight from the day. It is an insignificant piece of cloth, yet your mind is clinging to it tightly. Now, imagine holding that resentment in your outstretched hand, just as Ananda held his robe. Feel the heaviness of it, the sharp, tight edges of the remembered injustice. Now, with your next slow, gentle exhale, simply open your fingers and let it drop. You are giving it away, not to the person who caused it, but to the vast open space of the night. You are giving up the internal burden. Inhale. Feel the clean, pure air filling the space where the resentment used to be. Exhale. Release the effort of holding on. Offer that memory to the deep, silent wisdom of the earth beneath you. The body relaxes immediately when the mind ceases to grasp. Feel the muscles around your eyes releasing their clench. Feel the profound, soothing warmth spreading through your chest as the heart, which had been contracted in defense, now opens wide in the act of giving. This is the alchemy of compassion. By choosing to give away your suffering, you instantly transform the relationship, not just with the outer world, but with yourself. You move from the rigid self of the victim to the limitless self of the giver. The lightness you feel now is the true prize of generosity. Ananda walked away from that encounter with nothing but his bare skin against the night air. Yet he was infinitely richer than Deva, who still carried the burden of his own grasping. Ananda had nothing left to lose, nothing left to defend, and was therefore completely free. Let your hands feel utterly relaxed now, palms softly resting, ready for no action, no defense, no grasping. Just the quiet repose of a generous heart. Extended contemplation on dana and deep rest. We are extending this practice of dana into the deepest recesses of your mind and body. You are giving up the need for any kind of effort. You are giving up the effort required to stay awake, the effort required to control your thoughts, and the effort required to remember the past. Imagine the atmosphere in the jungle after Deva fled. The wind rustled the leaves, carrying away the dust and the memory of the violent encounter. The air was cool, quiet, and vast. This is the atmosphere of your mind now, purified by the act of non-clinging. The most profound act of generosity you can offer tonight is the gift of deep rest to your own body and mind. You are offering total, unconditional permission for all tension to dissolve. Be generous with your time. Give yourself this full, uninterrupted night of healing silence. Be generous with your mind. Offer all your scattered, busy thoughts to the night, like quiet little boats drifting away from the shore. You don't need them until morning. Be generous with your body. Offer your weight completely to the bed. Let the shoulders give up their burden. Let the hips melt. You are giving away the tension that the day has stored. Feel the soft texture of your bed, the cool press of the sheets, the gentle warmth of your blankets. Every sensation is a form of support that you are receiving with gratitude. And because you are receiving, you are effortlessly giving. You are giving your trust, your openness, your non-resistance. With every deep, slow breath, you are not just breathing in air, you are breathing in the spacious, cooling energy of compassion and breathing out the last, faint wisps of aversion. Visualize Ananda's kind face, his eyes shining not with reproach, but with immense pity for the suffering Deva was inflicting upon himself. That gentle gaze is upon you now, telling you that your own suffering is optional, a garment you can choose to take off at any moment. You have taken off the heavy robe of resentment. You are light. You are open. You are free. Let the wisdom of the gift of the robe carry you now. The path to deep sleep is found not by taking or clinging, but by the supreme act of giving everything up. There is nothing left to defend, nothing left to hold. Drift now. Drift into the silence, the softness, the profound security of a heart that knows how to release its grasp. Sleep deeply, easily, and completely. The journey into transformation continues in the vastness of your rest. Part 6. The Listening Heart. Understanding the pain behind the fury. Settle now, even deeper, into the profound stillness that follows the practice of generosity. Your hands are open, your heart is soft, and the space around you is vast and quiet. We have moved beyond the initial heat of anger and the self-inflicted pain of holding a grudge. Now we prepare to unlock the true power of great compassion, the ability to see beyond the aggressive action and recognize
The deep, hidden suffering that fuels the fury of others. Anger, when directed at you, feels like an attack, a sharp word, or an unfair judgment. The natural, conditioned response is to recoil, to defend, or to retaliate. But the masters of wisdom teach that aggression is almost always a mask. It is a desperate, clumsy, and often loud cry for help from a person who is experiencing their own form of intense internal pain, fear, or unhealed trauma. The arrow of anger they shoot at you often originates from a wound they carry within themselves. Tonight, we will learn to listen with a heart of Vimalakirti, a heart that hears the suffering, not just the sound of the shout. Imagine a monastery nestled high in the distant mountains, cloaked in mist and silent snow. There lived a renowned elderly master named Hakuin, whose wisdom was sought by many throughout the land. But Hakuin was not simply known for his teachings. He was known for his impeccable composure in the face of conflict and slander. The local village, like all communities, held its share of gossip and resentment. One of the prominent, respected families in the village, led by a powerful merchant, had a daughter named Yumi, who became pregnant out of wedlock. The merchant, frantic to protect his family's honor and driven by a desperate need for a scapegoat, demanded to know the father's name. Yumi, in her fear and shame, and knowing of the master's gentle, non-reactive nature, uttered the first name that came to her mind. Master Hakuin. The merchant, consumed by his rage and the fear of social ruin, stormed up the mountain path to the monastery. He burst into Hakuin's simple hut. He did not speak with harsh words. He shrieked with uncontrolled, agonizing fury. He demanded answers. He condemned the master's hypocrisy. He threatened to burn the temple down and ruin Hakuin's name forever. His words were a torrent of pain and accusation, fueled by his terrified grasping at social standing. Hakuin, who was seated quietly, preparing ink for his calligraphy, did not look up immediately. He did not defend himself. He did not protest his innocence, which was absolute. He simply sat still, using the pause of the breath we discussed, and listened. But he was not just hearing the merchant's words. He was listening with his deepest, quietest mind to the suffering behind the shout. He heard the man's fear of shame, the pain of shattered expectations for his daughter, the crushing weight of cultural judgment. The merchant's rage was a defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to externalize an unbearable internal reality. When the merchant finally ran out of breath, trembling and exhausted, the master finally lifted his head. His eyes were not cold or indignant. They were filled with a profound, quiet sadness for the man's distress. Hakuin simply replied with two soft words, acknowledging the truth of the man's deep core pain, regardless of the false accusation. He spoke the words slowly, allowing them to settle into the charged air. Is that so? The merchant was completely disarmed. He was prepared for an argument, for a denial, for a defense. He was prepared for more fighting. But Hakuin offered no resistance. He did not throw the insult back. He simply absorbed it, letting it pass through the non-self of his identity, seeing the man's suffering clearly. Hakuin's response, "Is that so?" was an act of radical acceptance. It gave the merchant no fuel to burn. It was a space of profound, patient listening that dissolved the merchant's need for battle. The merchant, finding no one to fight, was left only with the ringing silence and the hollow echo of his own desperation. He left the monastery, the rage cooling rapidly into shame and confusion. Months later, Yumi, unable to live with the lie and seeing the master's quiet compassion, finally confessed the true father's name. The merchant, now truly humbled and crushed by the weight of his own misjudgment, raced back up the mountain to beg Hakuin's forgiveness. He prostrated himself, weeping, detailing his mistake and the great slander he had cast upon the innocent master. Hakuin listened again, with the same deep, quiet patience. He allowed the man's confession and sorrow to fill the room, recognizing the pain of his guilt and the relief of his honesty. When the merchant was finished, Hakuin simply replied with the same two soft, non-judgmental words, signaling that he accepted the reality of the situation just as easily as he had accepted the slander. Is that so? This is the profound, quiet power of the listening heart. Hakuin's wisdom teaches us that to transform anger, we must stop listening for the insult and start listening for the injury. The insult is the surface foam. The injury is the deep churning water beneath. As you lie now,
deeply relaxed. Bring to mind a recent instance where you were targeted by another person's anger, criticism, or hostility. Do not let the heat rise again. Simply hold the memory gently, cradled in the vastness of your restful awareness. Now, attempt to apply Hakuin's practice of deep, compassionate listening. Step 1. Separate the noise from the pain. Separate the aggressive words, the noise, from the likely source, the pain. The words are the vessel, but the contents are fear, stress, exhaustion, or a history of feeling unheard. Step 2. Recognize the clinging. See that the person attacking you is simply clinging fiercely to something, their reputation, their expectation, their own need to be seen as right. Their aggression is a defense of their own dukkha, suffering. Step 3. The internal response. Instead of reacting with defense, which is the ego fighting ego, offer Hakuin's silent internal response. Is that so? This phrase is an ultimate act of non-clinging. It means, I see your statement, but I will not let it define me, nor will I let it define you. I accept this moment as it is, without attachment to the outcome. Let your entire body soften now. Feel the profound security of knowing that no external word can alter your internal peace unless you granted permission. You are the mountain. Their rage is merely the weather passing over your peak. This practice is the gateway to karuna, compassion. Compassion is the wish that all beings be free from suffering. When you hear the aggression as a cry of pain, the impulse to retaliate immediately dissolves, replaced by a deep, vast surge of pity and understanding. You don't need to engage in the drama, because you see the actor is already trapped in their own tragic script. Now, allow this understanding to deepen the tranquility in your heart. The entire atmosphere of your body is relaxing, moving past mere calmness into profound, deep relaxation. Imagine the monastery on the mountain, now bathed in the gentle moonlight. The incident with the merchant is over, leaving no residue. The space is clean, purified by the master's non-judgmental acceptance. Allow your mind to become that spacious, clean environment. Any thought of bitterness, blame, or justification is simply received with a soft, "Is that so?" and allowed to pass without judgment. Let the muscles around your heart completely soften. This area often holds the stored defensive tension from past wounds. Gently breathe into the center of your chest. Feel a warmth expanding there, the warmth of karuna. The vast, gentle sympathy for all beings, including yourself. You are not condoning the hurtful action. You are simply recognizing the humanity of the person who committed it. They are operating from a place of limited wisdom, driven by their own deep, unaddressed need. You are free from that need. With every slow, deliberate out-breath, imagine you are breathing cool, soothing air onto a smoldering coal, the coal of someone else's pain that you had unknowingly picked up. Let the air of your compassion cool it down until it is just a piece of harmless, cold ash, ready to be dissolved by the morning dew. Your consciousness is deepening now.
You are sinking through the layers of thought and worry, finding the quiet, unchanging bedrock of your being. This bedrock is your Buddha nature. It is inherently wise, inherently peaceful, and inherently compassionate. Rest in this truth. The greatest gift you can give the world is your own unwavering internal peace. And the greatest act of compassion is to see the suffering in the heart of your perceived foe. Let your hands and feet feel heavier than ever before. You are completely surrendered to the wisdom of the night. The stories of the day, the sharpness of the words, the weight of the past all dissolve in the face of this profound, spacious acceptance. The mountain sleeps, steady and true. You are the mountain. Just rest in the vastness of your own listening heart. Sleep now. Deep, gentle, compassionate sleep. The cool water of metta, cultivating loving kindness.
For self, settle now, fully into the vast open space of your listening heart. The profound peace of Master Hakuin's "Is that so?" has cleared the external static. We have moved from fighting the aggression of others to recognizing their suffering. Now we must turn that gentle, vast, unconditional acceptance inward, applying the cool, life-giving water of metta, loving kindness, to the self. Anger, even when directed outward, always originates from and returns to inflict damage upon the self. It leaves behind residues of tension, self-criticism, and the exhausting feeling of having to constantly defend an illusory self. Before we can truly offer kindness to the empty foe, Part 2, we must first heal the empty self, the self that feels wounded, insufficient, or vulnerable. Metta begins not as a grand, sweeping gesture towards humanity, but as a small, gentle rain falling upon your own weary heart. It is the practice of treating yourself in this very moment of rest with the same profound patience and understanding that Master Hakuin offered the raging merchant. Imagine the tale of a humble, nameless novice monk, one who was always the last to understand the sutras, the slowest to rake the garden, and the clumsiest in the kitchen. His name, if he had one, was just a quiet whisper of self-doubt. Let us call him Janen, the one who is natural or spontaneous. Janen was tormented not by external enemies, but by the fierce, relentless voice of his own internal critic. If he made a mistake, the voice would condemn him harshly. You are incompetent. You are not worthy of this path. Why do you even try? This self-anger was the most insidious form of suffering. It prevented him from sitting still in meditation, fueling a constant, restless anxiety. He was perpetually in conflict with his own inadequacy. One day, while polishing the massive wooden floor of the meditation hall, Janen was struggling to create the perfect mirror-like finish demanded by the abbot. He was exhausted and frustrated. In a moment of sheer emotional fatigue, he stumbled, scattering a handful of fine polishing wax across the freshly finished section of the floor. A wave of intense heat, the familiar feeling of self-anger, swept through him. His fist clenched. He wanted to rage, to cry, to strike out at the clumsy self that had caused the ruin. He felt an intense, crushing shame. The abbot, an old woman known simply as the grandmother of the quiet heart, happened to be walking by. She saw Janen's clenched fist and the rigid tension of his back, and she immediately recognized the internal battle he was waging, the most vicious battle of all. She did not address the spilled wax. She addressed the internal heat. "Janen," she whispered, kneeling beside him, her voice softer than the silk cloth he was holding. "You are very tired, little one. The body has worked hard and the mind is demanding too much. Tell me, if this clumsy, tired novice standing here were your own younger brother, what would you say to him? Jinan thought of his younger brother, a sweet, often frightened boy. His heart instantly softened. I would tell him it is all right, grandmother, Jinan murmured. I would tell him that everyone makes mistakes and that he should rest. I would tell him to be gentle with himself. The grandmother nodded, her eyes twinkling with profound understanding. And yet, you hold a whip made of harsh words over your own shoulders, driving yourself into exhaustion. You offer compassion to the outside world, but only condemnation to the one who needs it most, the tired, striving heart within your own breast. She handed him the soft polishing cloth. The spilled wax is easily cleaned, Jinan. The true stain is the anger you hold against the self. Now, I want you to sit down right here. The floor can wait. Close your eyes and breathe. Jinan sat, still trembling slightly with the residue of shame and self-condemnation. Now, the grandmother instructed gently, you have offered kindness to the imagined brother. Now offer it to the real one, the heart that is beating right now, the lungs that are breathing, the body that is tired. They are doing their best. She led him through the profound, simple practice of metta for self. As you lie now, deeply and wonderfully resting, let us follow the grandmother's instruction. You are moving past relaxation into deep sleep, and the gentlest way to cross that threshold is through unconditional self-acceptance. We are going to use specific, soothing phrases, the language of the compassionate heart, to quiet the internal critic and apply the cool water to the wound. Take a deep, cleansing breath. Feel the entire weight of your body. Acknowledge the effort you made today, the struggles and the small victories. It was enough. Now as you breathe softly, direct the flow of your loving kindness directly into the center of your chest, imagining a soft, warm, gentle light beginning to glow there. Repeat these phrases silently, allowing them to truly sink into the deep, often neglected places of your heart. May I be safe. May I be free from all danger, from all internal and external threat. I am safe here. Feel the security of your bed, the stillness of the night. You are giving yourself the gift of safety. May I be happy. May I be free from the heavy burdens of sorrow and worry. I wish happiness for this tired heart, without condition. Release the right to be miserable. Choose the possibility of ease. May I be healthy. May my body be free from pain, tension, and fatigue. I allow this body to rest, to heal, to regenerate completely. Feel the healing energy of the deep breath moving through any area of tightness. May I live with ease and peace. May I live with a mind that is spacious, open, and free from self-criticism. I deserve peace. Let the tension of the day simply pour out of your limbs, making room for true ease. Continue to repeat these phrases, gently, slowly, allowing the warmth of the light in your chest to expand, washing through your shoulders, your arms, and down through your entire torso. The power of metta is that it is unconditional. You are not saying, I will be kind to myself if I achieve more or make fewer mistakes. You are saying, I offer kindness to this being who is striving, who is sometimes confused, who is tired, simply because it exists and is worthy of peace. Jinan, sitting on the cold floor, repeated these words until the tight knot of shame in his stomach finally began to unravel. He realized the most persistent source of his suffering was his own self-hatred, his own demanding lack of kindness toward his striving self. When he finally allowed the gentle phrases to penetrate the shield of his self-criticism, the anxiety instantly subsided. The battle was over, because the internal foe had been offered unconditional peace. This is the great, liberating truth. You cannot give away a peace you do not possess. The well of compassion for others will always run dry if it is not constantly refilled by the clear, deep spring of self-kindness. Settle completely into this soft, radiant light. Let this be the final, necessary act before sleep, the ultimate surrender to self-acceptance. Feel the profound lightness of relinquishing the internal battle. There is no more need for vigilance. There is no more need for perfection. You are released from the impossible demands of the ego. Let your hands feel soft, completely at rest. Let your jaw unclench, allowing your teeth to slightly separate. Let your mind be as quiet and vast as the hall on a moonlit night, filled only with the soft, echoing truth of these loving phrases. Imagine the grandmother of the quiet heart, placing a comforting, warm shawl over your shoulders now. This shawl is made of pure, unconditional acceptance. It wraps around you, guaranteeing your safety and your peace. You are perfectly warm, perfectly supported, and perfectly worthy. Breathe in the warmth of "May I be safe." Feel the deep, primitive part of your brain that is always on guard, finally letting go of its burden. It knows it can rest now. Breathe out all the leftover fear, all the subtle anxieties about tomorrow, all the exhaustion. Breathe in the gentle, bright light of "May I be happy." This happiness is not excitement. It is the deep, quiet, untroubled joy of simply resting in the present moment. Breathe out the expectations and the demanding timelines of the outside world. Breathe in the vast, regenerative energy of "May I be healthy." Feel every cell in your body softening, relaxing its long-held defense. Breathe out all resistance, all tension, all residual pain. You are now utterly complete in this moment of self-acceptance. Jinnen's story reminds us that kindness is the ultimate tool of transformation. It transforms the internal battlefield into a sanctuary of peace. Rest now in the secure embrace of your own kindness. The light in your chest is expanding, vast and gentle, filling the room, pushing away any shadow of worry or self-doubt. Sleep is arriving now, naturally and effortlessly. It is not an escape, but a loving reunion with the deepest, most rested part of yourself. You are beloved. You are enough. You are at peace. Drift into the deepest rest, held completely by the unconditional love of your own kind heart. Sleep now. Sleep deeply, easily, and fully. The gentle hand on the burning forehead, extending metta to the difficult. Settle now, fully embraced by the cool, soft light of self-compassion. Your mind is quiet, your body is heavy, and the profound healing energy of metta, loving kindness, has saturated your own being. Having healed the internal wound, we are now ready for the most challenging and liberating step in the transformation of anger. Extending this gentle, vast kindness to those we call difficult. Anger dies when it encounters compassion, but it must be unconditional compassion, the kind that expects nothing in return and sees only the suffering, not the offense. This is the practice of great compassion, applied to the very person whose memory might still cause a flicker of heat in your chest. The Zen masters taught that the person who challenges your peace is, in fact, your greatest teacher. They present the final exam, testing the authenticity of your practice. It is easy to feel kind toward a flower or a resting child. The true measure of your wisdom is your ability to feel kindness toward the one who makes your jaw clench. Imagine a time centuries ago, during a period of great religious persecution, there was a legendary bodhisattva, an enlightened being who vows to postpone their own ultimate liberation until all beings are free, known as Kshanti, the bodhisattva of patience. He lived in the deep forest, practicing rigorous meditation, undisturbed by the political chaos of the outer world. One day, the king of that region, a man named Kalabu, who was tyrannical and consumed by a vicious temper and deep-seated paranoia, was hunting in the forest with his entourage. Kalabu was suffering from the anxiety of his own power, a man trapped by his own grasping ego. He came upon the bodhisattva sitting in profound, motionless meditation. The king, in his raging insecurity, felt immediately threatened by the peaceful presence of the hermit. He saw the monk's profound stillness not as peace, but as a deliberate insult to his royal authority. The king's anger was an immense, roaring furnace, fueled by the fear of losing control. Kalabu demanded that the monk explain his virtue, his teaching, and his practice. Kshanti, opening his eyes slowly, replied with the same quiet, steady voice that we practice in deep meditation. I practice Kshanti, Your Majesty, the perfection of boundless patience. The king sneered, his face contorted by the intensity of his inner turmoil. Patience. What patience can you possibly know in this quiet, empty forest? True patience is tested by pain and torment. Let me see the boundaries of your patience. Consumed by his own blinding rage and fear, the king ordered his guards to inflict terrible suffering upon the bodhisattva. The king himself took a sword and began to commit unimaginable acts of violence, determined to break the monk's calm and force him into a reaction of pain, anger, or fear. He wanted a fight, a scream, a sign that the monk was just as brittle and controllable as everyone else in his court. During this horrific ordeal, the bodhisattva remained completely still. He did not tighten a muscle. He did not cry out. He did not plead. His mind, anchored by the profound understanding of anicca, impermanence, and anatta, non-self, was completely untouched by the outer violence. Kshanti saw the king not as a villain, but as a deeply disturbed, terrified soul, entirely possessed by the intense, destructive fire of his own suffering. The bodhisattva saw the king's raging action as a symptom of his immense internal wound, a wound far deeper than any physical injury he was inflicting. Kshanti's heart was filled with a deep, sorrowful karuna, compassion for the king, who was generating such terrible suffering for his own future. When the king finally stopped, exhausted by his own fury, he stood over the bodhisattva, panting, awaiting the inevitable moment of rage, fear, or curse. The bodhisattva, miraculously, gently raised his hand. His gaze was not one of accusation, but of profound, unshakable kindness, like a gentle hand placed on a feverish, burning forehead. Your Majesty, the Bodhisattva whispered, his voice steady. "My patience is limitless. My only wish is that your immense suffering, the terrible fire that burns inside your own heart and drives you to these acts, may be instantly quenched. I vow that when I attain full enlightenment, you will be the very first being I help to liberate from the cycle of pain, for your suffering is vast." The king, standing in the presence of this profound, unearned, unconditional kindness, was struck dumb. His rage found nothing to grasp, no resistance to fight against. The force of the Bodhisattva's metta, his active wish for the king's well-being, was like a sudden, massive flood of ice-cold water poured directly onto his burning ego. The external violence stopped. The external violence stopped because the internal fuel was completely extinguished by compassion. This magnificent, radical story is the instruction for your own heart tonight. The Bodhisattva Kshanti teaches us the 3 steps of unconditional metta for the difficult person. Do not grasp the gift of anger. Refuse to accept the anger or the offense as your own. See it as the king's sword, an external object that cannot touch your internal stillness unless you invite it in. See the wound, not the weapon. Recognize the king's fury not as malice, but as a desperate, terrified action born of deep personal suffering, fear, and insecurity. The weapon is merely a symptom of the wound. Offer the vow. Consciously direct the gentle, cool light of metta toward the difficult person, repeating the unconditional wish. May they be free from the suffering that causes them to act this way. Now, as you lie in the most profound stage of relaxation, let us apply this ultimate practice. Gently bring to mind the individual whose memory sometimes stirs resentment or hurt. You are not forgiving their action. You are choosing to release yourself from the burden of their suffering. Close your eyes fully. Draw a deep, cleansing breath. As you exhale, let go of your right to judge them. Now, imagine that person standing before you, not as the aggressor, but as a small, frightened child, driven by fear and pain. See the vulnerability behind the harsh mask. With your breath, begin to silently extend the phrases of metta specifically toward this difficult being. Speak these words not with your voice, but with the deepest, most sincere intention of your open heart. May you be safe. May you be free from the fear and insecurity that drive your aggressive actions. May you be happy. May your heart find true, peaceful joy, the kind that eliminates the need to lash out at others. May you be healthy. May you be free from the internal sickness of resentment and anxiety that poisons your mind. May you live with ease and peace. May you find the ultimate rest and release from the constant, exhausting struggle of your own ego. Continue repeating these phrases, letting the warmth in your chest expand, flowing out toward this individual. Imagine your metta as the gentle hand on the burning forehead, the cool, soothing touch that recognizes the immense fever of their internal pain and wishes only for its cessation. Do not expect the feeling to be instantaneous love. Expect it to be release. The moment you genuinely wish them peace, you sever the energetic connection that tied their pain to your resentment. You stop fighting the king, and in that cessation of battle, your own heart finds profound and instantaneous freedom. This is the great, compassionate victory. You are not defeated. You are liberated. You are resting now,
utterly protected by your own vast, unshakable kindness. Allow the image of the king's sword and the bodhisattva's peaceful gaze to fade now. The story is complete, and the lesson is absorbed into the deep quiet of your being. Feel your entire body softening. The profound release of this practice is the final preparation for deep sleep. When you release the need to defend yourself against the world, the body can finally drop its vigilance. You are resting in the power of the Bodhisattva's vow, a vow of universal kindness that includes even the most difficult people. This is the highest form of spiritual security. Let your breathing become so gentle, so effortless, that it seems to breathe itself. Your mind is vast and empty, like the peaceful forest where the Bodhisattva sat. The turbulence of the day, the sharpness of old memories, the fear of future conflict, all are dissolving into the profound supporting space of the night. Rest now in the glorious healing knowledge that your compassion is limitless and that this vast kindness protects you completely. You are safe. You are compassionate. You are at peace. Drift now. Drift deeply into the healing silence, held by the gentle hand of metta. Sleep now. Sleep completely. Part 9. The Seamless Circle, resting in the unborn peace. You are now at the final stage of this journey, resting in the quiet glow of metta, unconditional loving kindness, having extended it both to yourself and to the most difficult person in your life. The great cycle of transformation is complete. The heat of anger has been cooled by the water of compassion, and the fixed delusion of the self and the foe has been dissolved by the wisdom of anatta, non-self. The final destination of this path is not merely the absence of anger, but the profound, all-encompassing realization of nibbana, nirvana, the unborn peace, the state of absolute freedom from all suffering, which is attainable right here, in this moment of deep, conscious rest. This peace is not something you achieve. It is something you uncover by dropping the last subtle layer of effort. Imagine the tale of the ancient, legendary Zen hermit, Master Tengan, who lived for decades in a small remote mountain hermitage, known for its utterly silent and perfect stillness. Tengan had transcended all dualities, cold and heat, joy and sorrow, and crucially, peace and anger. One day, a young, ambitious scholar named Kenshi came to visit Tengan. Kenshi had mastered all the sutras but was tormented by his inability to maintain peace. He would argue philosophy brilliantly, but a simple insult could send him into a furious, self-destructive rage. He sought a final, definitive answer to silence the internal storm. Kenshi entered the hermitage, bowed deeply, and then, driven by his urgency, burst out with his question. "Master Tengan, please, I beg you, tell me the secret of unshakable peace. How does one finally and utterly destroy the seed of anger forever?" Master Tengan was quietly tending a small fire,
stoking the embers with a long iron poker. He did not look at the scholar. He simply continued to move the coals, his face calm and still. Kenshi, impatient and used to immediate intellectual answers, repeated his question, his voice rising with frustration. I need the technique, the final teaching. How do you prevent the fire from ever igniting again? Master Tengan waited until the embers glowed fiercely, bright orange and white with heat. Then he looked up at the young scholar, his eyes ancient and serene, and held out the iron poker which was now searing hot. Kenshi, the master asked quietly, you wish to destroy the seed of anger, which you correctly identify as fire. Tell me, where does the fire of this iron poker go when I remove the source of the heat? Kenshi frowned, confused by the simplicity of the question. It cools down, master. The heat disperses into the air. It doesn't go anywhere. It simply ceases to be heat. It returns to the nature of the iron. Master Tengan nodded slowly, his eyes returning to the calming glow of the coals. Precisely. And where, then, is the anger in this room right now, Kenshi? Where does the source of the fire reside? Kenshi suddenly understood the profound, final lesson. Anger does not have a separate, permanent existence. It is not an entity you must destroy. It is merely a temporary function of attachment and resistance, a heat generated by the friction of grasping the fixed self and expecting permanence. When you remove the fuel, clinging, expectation, identity, the anger does not flee. It simply ceases to be heat and returns to its true nature, cool, empty, unconditioned peace. Master Tengen's teaching is the profound truth of sunyata, emptiness, applied to the self and emotions. All things, yourself, the enemy, the anger, the peace, are empty of permanent, fixed existence. They are just temporary collections of causes and conditions. The anger you seek to destroy is, at its root, empty. It is unborn. And if anger is unborn, it has no fixed, permanent essence. Then the peace you seek is also unborn. It is not created by effort. It is simply the natural, quiet state revealed when the heat of friction is removed. Now, lying in the deep quiet, your body heavier than ever before, let this final, liberating truth settle over you like the deepest ocean. You are moving past the need for effort and into the state of effortless rest. The anxiety, the self-criticism, the residual resentment, all are just the temporary heat on the poker. You do not need to fight them. You do not need to observe them anymore. You simply need to remove the source of the friction, the need to be anything other than what you are right now, in this moment. We are now performing the final, complete surrender. Release the grasp on practice. Let go of the need to even do this meditation perfectly. Let the intention to breathe deeply or to repeat the metaphrases dissolve. Just allow the breath to be natural. Release the fixed self. Let go of the internal identity that says, I am the person who was angry, or I am the person who is now peaceful. You are neither. You are the vast, open, unconditioned awareness in which these states appear. You are the empty iron poker. Rest in the unborn. Feel the profound relief of discovering the peace that requires no effort. This peace is your original nature, the silence that preceded the story of your life,
the coolness that remains when all heat has dissipated. It has always been here. Settle into this awareness of unborn peace. It is the silence between the heartbeats. It is the cool air around your sleeping face. It is the vast, dark
Quiet of the deepest hour of the night. There is nothing to achieve. There is nothing to hold. There is nothing to defend. The cycle of the day is completely broken. The cycle of the dream is gently beginning. Allow your mind to become completely formless, merging with the great, silent ocean of rest. Imagine the old master Tengen, now completely still, his awareness merged with the vastness of the mountain. He is not experiencing peace. He is peace. Let your consciousness flow out of the small confines of your body and merge with the surrounding room, the quiet house, the sleeping neighborhood, and the vast, dark, peaceful cosmos. You are connected to everything, separate from nothing. The unborn peace is utterly safe. It cannot be disturbed because it is empty of fixed form. It cannot be lost because it was never created. Let your internal monologue fade out completely. There are no more instructions, no more stories, no more thoughts. There is only the vast, gentle, supporting silence. Any subtle tension remaining in your body, in the tiny muscles around your eyes, or the soft skin of your cheeks, is now the last whisper of the heat. Let it dissolve instantly, effortlessly, into the profound coolness of the night. You are completely resting in the final, complete surrender. You are moving beyond relaxation, beyond sleep, into the deepest, most restorative silence. The journey is complete. You have found the end of anger in the unborn peace of your own nature. Sleep now. Sleep deeply, safely, and infinitely. The iron poker is cold. The fire is gone. You are peace. Sleep now. Chapter 10. The power of right speech, sealing the heart's integrity. Settle now, fully and softly, into the quiet space you have cultivated. Your body is heavy and resting, your mind is clear, and the internal noise of anger has been cooled. We have explored the roots of anger and the power of non-resistance. Tonight, we turn our attention outward to the most crucial discipline for maintaining internal peace, right speech. Sama Vaka. The way we use language, not just with others, but in the internal monologue with ourselves. The Buddha taught that our words are like seeds. Once planted, they grow. A harsh word plants a seed of conflict, not just in the listener, but in the heart of the speaker. Conversely, a gentle, truthful word cultivates peace, solidifying the tranquility we find in meditation. Right speech is the practice of sealing the heart's integrity, ensuring that the peace we find inside is not shattered by the carelessness of the words we utter. Imagine a quiet, remote village known for its vast, empty stretches of bamboo forest. In this village lived a young craftsman named Hiroki, who was masterful at weaving delicate bamboo baskets. Hiroki was skilled, but he was perpetually miserable, driven by an inner turbulence that no amount of beautiful work could calm. Hiroki's suffering was rooted in his speech. He was a master of gossip and sharp criticism. If a neighbor's roof was crooked, Hiroki was the first to point it out. If a fellow craftsman's work was imperfect, Hiroki would dissect the flaw with cutting precision. He believed his harsh words were simply truth or honesty, but in reality, they were the constant external expression of his own internal anxiety and self-doubt. Every critical word he spoke about others was a shield against facing his own imperfections. Over time, the villagers began to avoid Hiroki. They admired his baskets, but shrank from his company. He became lonely, isolated, and increasingly bitter. His work, though technically perfect, lacked warmth. His baskets felt cold, reflecting the solitude of his heart. One day, an old Zen master, revered for her profound silence, came to the village. Hiroki, desperate for peace, approached her, poured out his misery, and blamed the villagers for their distance and coldness. The master, known as Grandmother Yugen, listened without judgment. "Hiroki," she finally said, her voice like the soft rustling of dry bamboo leaves, "you are the finest basket maker I have ever seen. But your mind is like a sieve woven of sharp bamboo splinters. You take in the world, and what you choose to let out are only the sharpest edges. Tell me, when you use harsh words to criticize your neighbor's crooked roof, where does the first damage truly land?" Hiroki, convinced of his own logic, replied, "The damage is to the neighbor's pride, master. But the truth is necessary for correction." Grandmother Yugen shook her head gently. "No, Hiroki. The damage lands first in your own heart. Your harsh word is born of a sharp thought, and that sharp thought is fueled by the internal energy of aversion and judgment. When you choose harshness, you are teaching your own heart to contract, to close, to feel separation. You are shattering the very peace you seek." She explained the 4 pillars of right speech: truthfulness, satya, speaking only what is true; kindness, priya, speaking only words that are helpful, soft and gentle, never cruel; usefulness, artha, speaking only when the words serve a constructive purpose, not merely to fill silence or inflate the ego; harmony, samodana, speaking in a way that promotes unity and reduces conflict, never creating division. Grandmother Yugen handed Hiroki a small polished piece of jade. "This jade represents your internal peace, Hiroki. Every time you are tempted to speak a harsh, critical, or unnecessary word, stop. Hold this jade. Ask yourself, does this word serve peace? If the answer is no, offer the silence instead. That silence is the true basket that holds your integrity." Hiroki returned to his workshop, still skeptical, but desperate. The next morning, his neighbor, a carpenter, passed by and carelessly dropped a large piece of wood, splintering the fine bamboo matting near Hiroki's door. Instantly, the hot, familiar surge of anger rose, the impulse to lash out, to condemn the neighbor's clumsiness. Hiroki's hand involuntarily went to the piece of jade. Does this word serve peace? The answer, clear and undeniable, was no. Instead of speaking, he simply breathed, the long, patient exhale he had practiced in meditation. He remained silent. The intense heat of the anger, finding no immediate outlet in a sharp word, had nowhere to go but to dissolve back into his own chest. The energy of the heat, denied expression, simply dissipated. The neighbor, seeing Hiroki's quiet stillness, was surprised. He immediately saw his own carelessness and apologized sincerely. In that moment of silence, the connection between them was restored, not shattered. The integrity of Hiroki's heart was sealed, and the peace was preserved. This is the liberating power of right speech. It is the ultimate tool for non-retaliation. As you lie now, settled and resting, let us internalize the lesson of Grandmother Yugen. We are moving from deep relaxation toward profound inner healing. A large part of your internal turmoil is caused by internal harsh speech.
the constant critical self-talk, the repeating of remembered arguments, and the rehearsing of bitter defenses. You cannot speak kindly to the world if you are speaking cruelly to yourself. Let us apply the 4 pillars of right speech to your internal monologue. Truthfulness. Accept the truth of the present moment. I am tired. I am resting. This is enough. Stop insisting on the truth of your faults or past mistakes. Kindness. If a self-critical thought arises, you should have done better. Meet it with a kinder counterthought. I did my best with the knowledge I had. I am worthy of rest. Usefulness. When your mind starts rehearsing an argument from the day, recognize that this thought is useless. It does not build, it only burns energy. Gently discard the useless thought and return to the useful reality of the breath. Harmony. Cultivate internal harmony by speaking silently to your heart. All is well. I am at peace with myself. Feel the lightness that comes from stopping the internal argument. When you stop fighting with yourself, you naturally stop fighting with the world. The heart, no longer contracted by the fear of criticism, either self-directed or external, can finally open and rest. In the silence, there is no place for gossip, no need for criticism, and no energy for resentment. The silence is the ultimate, seamless basket that holds the jewel of your true peace. Extended contemplation on right speech and deep sleep. Now, allow the atmosphere of your room to become infused with the quietude of the bamboo forest. The air is cool, still, and utterly silent. Every breath you take in is a breath of purity. Every breath out is the release of unneeded words and thoughts. Imagine the jade stone resting in the center of your chest. It is perfectly smooth, cool, and radiates a silent, gentle warmth. This stone is the guardian of your speech, reminding you that peace is more valuable than pride or the need to be right. Let your jaw relax completely. Your tongue is heavy in your mouth. The muscles of your throat are softening. All the places where harsh, unspoken words might be stored are now releasing their tension. With every long, gentle exhale, imagine you are releasing the last of the words you wish you had not said today. They are not sins. They are simply energy that served no purpose. Release them and let the space they occupied fill with cool, profound silence. The true goal of right speech is to discover the silence that speaks. This is the silence of the heart that needs no defense, no argument, and no external validation. It is the deep, steady peace that is so immense it communicates its truth without a single uttered word. You are resting now in that powerful, steady silence. You are safe. You are harmonious. You are free from the internal and external battles of unnecessary words. Let the final threads of your conscious thought dissolve. You are sinking deeper, held by the gentle integrity of the quiet heart. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep silently. And sleep completely. Your words are peace. The unfolding lotus, embracing gratitude for the hardship. Settle now, completely yielding to the depth of your rest. Your body is heavy, your breath is slow, and your heart is sealed by the quiet integrity of right speech. We have focused on cooling the heat of anger, but the journey to profound peace requires more than mere cessation. It requires cultivation. Tonight,
we cultivate the most transformative, expansive, and enduring antidote to resentment. Gratitude, ananda, specifically gratitude for the hardship itself. Anger and resentment thrive in the soil of perceived injustice, the belief that something bad happened to you that should not have happened. Gratitude, conversely, sees every event, especially the challenging ones, as the necessary fertilizer for growth. The lotus, the ultimate symbol of purity and enlightenment, grows only out of the dark, muddy water. The mud, the difficulty, is not an obstacle to the flower. It is the essential condition for its unfolding. Imagine the story of a young aspirant named Kiko who lived near the sea. Kiko was dedicated to the path but was plagued by self-pity and resentment regarding her difficult life. She felt she was unfairly burdened. She had an overbearing, demanding guardian. Her work was tedious and physically exhausting, and she constantly compared her lack of freedom to the apparent ease of her peers. Her internal monologue was filled with the bitter words, "Why me? This is not fair. My progress is blocked by this unnecessary suffering." Kiko saw her hardships as giant, ugly rocks blocking her path to enlightenment. Her resentment for the rocks prevented her from seeing anything else. One day, Kiko traveled to seek the wisdom of the sea master, Ryujin, a hermit monk who lived in a simple cave carved into a sheer cliff face overlooking the vast, turbulent ocean. Ryujin was known for his constant, serene joy, which seemed impervious to the harsh conditions of his solitary life. Kiko presented her misery to the master, detailing every injustice, every frustration, and every demanding task. She concluded with a sigh, "Master, my life is a curse. The mud of my existence is so thick, I fear my lotus will never bloom. I am trapped by this unending, pointless struggle." Master Ryujin listened quietly, watching the relentless waves crash against the granite rocks below. The spray of the ocean mist filled the air, cool and sharp. "Kiko," the master finally said, his voice echoing with the sound of the ocean, "you see the mud, and you hate the mud. You see the hardship, and you curse the hardship. You see the strong, demanding current of your life, and you wish for still, easy water. But tell me, look at the cliffs outside this cave. How were they formed?" Kiko looked at the enormous, beautiful cliff face, carved with graceful lines and profound depth. "They were formed by eons of time, master, and the constant, relentless pounding of the sea, the harsh, unavoidable current." "Precisely," Ryujin replied, his gaze fixed on the turbulent water. "The waves that you see as violence are the very hands that shaped this beauty. The mud that you despise is the only element that can nurture the strength of the lotus stem. And the demanding guardian and the tedious work, these are not blocks. They are your sandpaper and your fire." He continued with a profound instruction. "The true enemy of peace is not the suffering, but the judgment of the suffering. You will remain angry and bitter as long as you insist that your growth should be easy. Your hardship is not a curse, it is your curriculum. It is your greatest teacher of patience, kshanti, and endurance, virya. Therefore, the key to unlocking peace is to shift from cursing the mud to thanking the mud." Master Ryujin gave Kiko a small, rough stone, worn smooth by the ocean. "Take this stone, Every time you feel the heat of resentment rise, every time you want to curse a difficult person or a frustrating task, hold this stone. Instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Then, offer a simple silent word of thanks for the lesson hidden within the rock. Kiko returned to her life and began the radical practice. When her demanding guardian criticized her work unfairly, she held the stone, offered a long exhale, and silently thought, "Thank you. This teaches me non-reaction and self-validation." When her fingers ached from the tedious weaving, she held the stone. "Thank you. This builds endurance and discipline." Slowly, the bitterness in her heart began to dissolve. The demanding guardian did not change. The work did not get easier. But Kiko changed completely. The resentment, denied its fuel of self-pity, starved and died. In its place, a profound, quiet strength began to bloom, and the intense joy of Ananda, the profound happiness that comes from acceptance, filled her heart. She realized that the rocks she had hated were the very foundation upon which her true peace was built. This is the liberating power of gratitude for hardship. It transforms the prison of resentment into the university of wisdom. As you lie now, settled and resting, let us apply this wisdom to your own life. We are moving from deep relaxation toward profound inner joy. Gently bring to mind a person or event that caused you significant frustration, pain, or anger during the past week, month, or even years. Do not focus on the surface event. Focus on the wisdom it forged in you. The slander, insult. It taught you the wisdom of non-self, anatta, by proving that external words cannot harm your core identity. Thank you for strengthening my inner anchor. The betrayal, loss. It taught you the profound truth of impermanence, anicca, forcing you to release attachment and become more resilient. Thank you for showing me what I don't need to cling to. The daily frustration, traffic. It taught you the essential skill of patience, kshanti, and the power of the mindful, long exhale. Thank you for the opportunity to practice peace. With every deep, full breath, consciously transform the memory of pain into a feeling of gratitude. You are thanking the mud for the strength of your stem. Feel the profound expansion that gratitude brings. Resentment contracts the heart. Gratitude expands it, making it vast, open, and capable of holding both the joy and the sorrow of life without breaking. The more open your heart is, the less surface area there is for a random insult or frustration to cling to. Settle completely into this feeling of quiet, profound thankfulness. Let this gratitude flow not just for the hardship, but for the peaceful opportunity of this very moment. The warmth, the safety, the deep quiet, and the simple, effortless rhythm of your own breath. Your body is sinking into perfect stillness now. You are not fighting the current, you are resting upon it. Allow the atmosphere of your rest to become infused with the cool, misty air of the ocean cliffside. You are safe in the cave of your own heart, watching the massive, turbulent forces of the world outside, knowing that they cannot touch your core. Imagine the rough stone Master Ryujin gave to Kiko resting in the center of your palm. Feel its weight, its history, and its silence. This stone represents all the difficulty you have ever overcome. It is the solid evidence of your strength and resilience. Breathe into that strength now. Feel the power of the lotus stem, rooted firmly in the mud, yet rising pure and clean toward the light. With every slow, gentle exhale,
whisper a word of thanks for the unique, challenging, and essential path that has brought you to this very moment of peace. Inhale. I take in the quiet strength earned through difficulty. Exhale. I release the last shadow of resentment and self-pity. Your entire being is now a vessel of quiet joy, the ananda that comes from total, unconditional acceptance. You have stopped arguing with reality, and in that cessation of argument, you have found the effortless flow of profound peace. Let the light of this gratitude illuminate the path into deep sleep. You are safe. You are strong. You are grateful. Drift now. Drift deeply, carried by the gentle current of thankfulness. Sleep completely. The lotus is unfolding. The silent listener. The power of deep reflection. Vipassana. Settle now, completely yielding to the depth of your rest. Your body is heavy, saturated with the quiet joy of gratitude. Ananda. We have moved beyond merely stopping anger to actively cultivating peace. Tonight, we embrace the final, penetrating tool of Buddhist psychology, Vipassana, deep reflection, or insight meditation. This is the practice of turning the mind into a perfectly still, clear mirror, allowing it to reflect reality, especially the reality of our emotions, without distortion, analysis, or judgment. Anger, fear, and resentment survive by hiding in the fast, automatic, unconscious rush of reaction. They thrive in the shadow of denial and distraction. Vipassana, the practice of clear seeing, brings them into the bright, uncompromising light of awareness, where they immediately begin to dissolve. To achieve this, we must learn to be the silent listener, the one who simply observes the rising and falling of all phenomena, internal and external, with perfect equanimity. Imagine the tale of an old Zen master named Zen-shin, whose name literally means mind of Zen. Zen-shin was renowned, not for his sermons, but for his solitary practice of sitting motionless for hours by the side of a vast, still mountain lake, known locally as the Mirror of Truth. The lake was famous because its waters were so still and pure that they reflected the sky, the mountains, and all life around it with absolute, perfect clarity. A young monk named Etsu, who was earnest but prone to emotional turmoil, sought the master's guidance. Etsu confessed that during his meditation, he would often be ambushed by fierce, self-critical thoughts or sudden, sharp pangs of anger from past conflicts. He would try to fight these thoughts, to push them away, to suppress them, which only made them stronger and more persistent. "Master," Etsu pleaded, his voice tinged with frustration, "my mind is a violent, churning river. When anger or self-hatred rises, how do I conquer it? What technique will allow me to defeat these turbulent emotions?" Master Zen-shin did not answer with a word. He simply gestured toward the vast, silent lake. "Etsu," the master finally said, his voice quiet, like a ripple on the water, "look at the lake. It is utterly still. When a cloud, a thought, passes above it, does the lake chase the cloud? When a storm, an emotion, rages in the sky, does the lake become angry at the storm? When a shadow, a judgment, falls upon its surface, does the lake rush to scrub the shadow away?" Etsu looked intently at the perfectly smooth, reflecting surface. "No, master, the lake does none of these things. It simply reflects them, receives them completely, and allows them to pass. The lake itself remains perfectly still." Master Zen-shin nodded slowly, a profound calm radiating from his being.
The mind is the same, Etsu. Your mind is naturally pure, still, and utterly receptive, like this lake. The anger, the self-hatred, the fear, these are merely temporary weather phenomena passing over the surface. Your suffering is not caused by the anger, but by your resistance to the anger. Your attempt to conquer or defeat the storm. This attempt to conquer creates the conflict, the churning, and the violent river you feel. He gave Etsu the instruction of Vipassana. When anger rises, do not react. Do not judge. Do not name it as my anger or bad anger. Simply become the mirror of truth. Observe the sensation purely, with the quiet precision of a scientist, using gentle, non-judgmental labels. Rising, rising, heating, contracting, then falling, falling, dissolving. The master continued, this observing is the work of the silent listener. The silent listener is your true nature, the awareness that is vast enough to contain the emotion without being defined by it. By simply seeing the emotion clearly, you apply the wisdom of impermanence, anicca. You witness its birth, its life, and its inevitable death. When you see its passing nature, you stop grasping it, and when you stop grasping it, it loses all power to sustain itself. Etsu took the teaching back to his own meditation practice. The next time a fierce, self-critical thought attacked him, he resisted the urge to fight back. Instead, he simply noted, thought rising, judgment forming, tightness in chest. He did not engage with the content of the thought. He simply observed the physical and mental process of its arising. Without the fuel of resistance, the thought, unable to engage in battle, quickly exhausted its energy, lost its sharpness, and faded away. He discovered that the anger he had feared and fought was merely a bundle of fleeting, impermanent sensations. It was a phantom, given power only by his own desperate reaction. The true peace was found not in eliminating the shadow, but in shining the light of pure awareness upon it. This practice of the Vipassana is the profound, quiet technique for dissolving all internal conflict. As you lie now, completely settled and resting, let us turn your consciousness into the perfectly still mirror of truth. You are moving from deep relaxation toward profound inner clarity. Your breath is your anchor. The entire body is still. Gently bring your attention to the internal landscape. You are not looking for anger. You are simply waiting, patiently, like the master at the lake, for any passing phenomenon. A stray thought, a subtle memory, a slight feeling of discomfort, or a residue of worry. When you detect a feeling or a thought, follow these steps with the detached curiosity of the silent listener. Acknowledge and note. Without judgment, acknowledge the phenomenon with a single, gentle descriptive word, e.g., planning, worried, ache, irritation, heat. Do not use the word I, e.g., not I am angry, but simply anger. Locate the sensation. Where is the feeling residing in your body? Is it a pressure in the forehead, a knot in the stomach, a tingling in the hands? Anchor the observation to the pure, physical sensation. Witness the change. Anicca. Watch the sensation intensely but calmly. Do not try to hold it or push it away. See how the intensity changes, how the location shifts, how the quality of the feeling evolves. It is always changing. It is never static. Allow it to dissolve. As you maintain this non-reactive, pure awareness, the emotion, denied the fuel of your struggle, will naturally begin to weaken and dissolve. You will note softening, fading, letting go. Continue this gentle internal practice. Let the mind be still. Let the awareness be vast. All the things you were fighting, Your thoughts, your emotions, your memories are simply transient clouds on the surface of your vast, quiet awareness. The true self is the mirror, perfectly calm, perfectly receptive, perfectly unchanged by what it reflects. This is the profound, quiet freedom of the silent listener. Extended contemplation on vipassana and deep sleep. Allow the atmosphere of your rest to become the cool, pristine air of the mountain lake. The stillness is absolute. Feel the profound security that comes from knowing you do not have to conquer anything. You simply have to see it clearly. What is clearly seen is understood as impermanent, and what is understood as impermanent is naturally released. Let your breathing deepen, becoming long, slow, and soft. With every inhale, you draw in the vast, still clarity of the lake's surface. With every exhale, you release any residual ripple of thought or tension. Imagine your awareness settling right in the center of your chest, a point of perfect calm. From this point, you watch the internal and external world pass by, without attachment, without aversion. Passing. Unborn. Your body is now so heavy that it feels seamlessly merged with the supporting surface beneath you. Your mind is quiet, clear, and perfectly still. The work of the day, the struggle of the ego, the need to judge or react, all are dissolving into the profound, vast freedom of the silent listener. You are resting in the core truth of your being, the awareness that remains when all the weather of emotion is past. You are the perfect mirror. Sleep is arriving now, naturally and effortlessly, born from this profound, unshakable stillness. Drift now, drift deeply into the healing clarity of pure rest. Sleep completely. The mirror is clean. Chapter 13. The Four Noble Maps, Seeing the Suffering and the Path Out. Settle. Now, completely into the seamless quietude of the silent listener. Your mind is a clear, unmoving lake, and your body is dissolved into the supportive rest beneath you. We have cooled the fire of anger with the breath, dissolved the illusion of the fixed foe, and cultivated the quiet strength of gratitude. Tonight, we embrace the most fundamental, liberating framework of all Buddhist wisdom, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, the absolute maps that guide the conscious being out of the landscape of suffering. These truths are not mystical doctrines, they are diagnostic realities, a way of seeing the human condition with clinical, compassionate clarity. They teach us that suffering is a natural fact of life but optional, and that there is a precise, practical path out of it. Imagine a physician of ancient times known only as the mountain doctor, Kassapa. Kassapa was renowned for his ability to cure chronic, seemingly incurable afflictions. He was successful because he never treated the symptom, the fever or the pain. He always diagnosed the root cause of the disease. The Buddha often referred to himself as a doctor and his teaching as the ultimate prescription. The Four Noble Truths follow the exact logic of a physician's diagnosis. Diagnosis: what is the problem? The truth of suffering, dukkha. Etiology: what is the cause of the problem? The truth of the origin of suffering, samudaya. Prognosis: can the problem be cured? The truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha. Prescription: what is the treatment plan? The truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, magga. Let us sit now with each truth, allowing its profound clarity to settle into the core of your resting mind. 1. Dukkha, the noble truth of suffering. The first truth is the brave, clear-eyed acceptance of dukkha. Dukkha is often translated simply as suffering, but its deeper meaning is unsatisfactoriness or stress, the inherent friction in a life built on impermanence. It is the subtle, persistent feeling that things are not quite right, that something is missing, or that the moment should be other than it is. Obvious suffering, the pain of illness, loss, fear, and age. Suffering of change, the pain of losing something good, a pleasure ending, a loved one leaving, a feeling fading. This is the source of resentment and grief. Pervasive suffering, conditioned existence, the deep, subtle tension of living with the constant expectation that happiness should be permanent, when everything is fundamentally impermanent. The Buddha teaches that we cannot avoid pain, the first arrow, but we can avoid suffering, the second arrow, the reaction to the pain. By acknowledging dukkha without denial, we stop fighting reality. This is the first massive release. You are simply accepting the fundamental nature of the human condition, which is a necessary step before seeking cure. As you lie here, acknowledge any dukkha you feel, the discomfort, the anxiety, the fatigue. Just note it. Ah, there is dukkha. This is the nature of conditioned existence. I accept this. Feel the quiet relief of releasing the argument against reality. 2. Samudaya, the noble truth of the origin of suffering. The mountain doctor then turns to the cause. If dukkha is the symptom, the cause is tanha, clinging or grasping. We suffer not because things are impermanent, but because we desperately cling to things we want to be permanent, clinging to pleasant experiences, wanting happiness to stay, clinging to fixed identity, wanting the ego to be permanent and right, clinging to aversion, wanting painful experiences to stop immediately. Anger is pure tanha. It is the fierce clinging to the idea of how a person should behave, how a situation should unfold, or how the past should have been different. The clash between this fixed, rigid grasping and the constantly flowing, chaotic reality is the source of all friction and all fire. The moment you can see your anger not as a righteous feeling, but as pure, unnecessary grasping, you have identified the true disease. The clinging is the root of the fever. As you rest, gently loosen the grip on any remaining expectation you have for tomorrow. You are letting go of tanha. You are letting go of the internal argument. Feel the space in your chest expand as the grip of expectation releases. 3. Nirodha, the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. The third truth offers the radical prognosis. The disease is curable. The cessation of suffering, nirodha, is possible, and it is achieved by the cessation of grasping, tanha. If you stop clinging to the fixed self, and stop insisting that the world conform to your expectations, the suffering, dukkha, naturally, effortlessly stops. The fire goes out because the fuel, tanha, has been removed. This is the ultimate promise of nibbana, nirvana, not a faraway heaven, but a state attainable here and now, characterized by the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. It is the cool, quiet peace you feel when you simply stop resisting reality. It is the unborn peace we discussed earlier, the natural state of the mind when the smoke clears. As you breathe deeply, feel your body fully absorbed in this nirodha, this moment of cessation. The mind is resting because it has stopped the effort of clinging. 4. Marga, the noble truth of the path. The fourth truth is the prescription, the practical step-by-step path that leads to the cessation of suffering. This is the eightfold path, marga.
the 8 interconnected points of practice that illuminate the way. These 8 steps are not sequential. They are mutually supportive and integrated, guiding your whole life toward clarity and compassion. As you rest now, we will hold each point gently in the stillness of your mind. Pillar of Wisdom, Pama, seeing clearly. Right view, Samadhi, understanding the Four Noble Truths. Seeing reality clearly, understanding impermanence.
Anicca, and non-self, anatta. You are doing this now. Right intention, Samma Sankappa, committing to freedom and compassion, cultivating intentions free from lust, ill will, and cruelty. This guides your energy away from anger. Pillar of morality, Sila, acting ethically to maintain peace. 3. Right speech, Samavaka, speaking truthfully, kindly, usefully, and harmoniously. 4. Right action, Samakamanta, acting non-violently, without harming yourself or others. All the external actions flow from a peaceful intention. 5. Right livelihood, Sama Ajiva, earning a living in a way that does not cause harm. Pillar of concentration, Samadhi, mastering the mind. 6. Right effort, Samavayama, cultivating wholesome states like metta and patience, and abandoning unwholesome states like anger and grasping. The effort to witness rather than react. 7. Right mindfulness, Samasati, maintaining clear, non-judgmental awareness of the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena in the present moment. 8. Right concentration, Sama Samadhi, developing focused, stable attention, allowing the mind to rest in deep, unwavering stillness. The focus of our next chapter. The practice of the Eightfold Path is the complete architecture for dismantling the clinging that fuels anger. When your view is clear, your intention is compassionate, your speech and action are gentle, and your mind is stable and aware, there is no space for the fire to ignite. Allow the profound clarity of these truths to settle into your consciousness. You are resting not just in a bed, but in the certainty of this ancient, liberating wisdom. Imagine the mountain doctor, Kassapa, standing over you. He confirms that the disease of dukkha is understood, the cause of tanha is identified, and the cure of nirodha is available. Your only task now is to simply rest upon the path. Feel the deep release in your body as you realize that the path to peace is already laid out. There is no need for confusion or frantic searching. Every part of your being, your thoughts, your actions, your speech, your effort, can be aligned with tranquility. With every deep, full breath, consciously embody the pillar of wisdom. I see clearly. I intend peace. With every gentle, soft exhale, embody the pillar of morality. I speak kindly. I act gently. With the profound stillness of your body, embody the pillar of concentration. I am aware. I am still. You are fully engaged in the magga, the path, by simply resting with full awareness. The path itself is the peace. Let the final threads of your conscious analysis dissolve. You are sinking deeper into the knowledge that the anger you once feared is merely a symptom of grasping, and you have chosen the path of letting go. Rest now in the glorious, steady safety of the path. Sleep deeply, sleep peacefully, and sleep completely, guided by the wisdom that is already within you. The maps are complete. The journey continues in the silence.
Chapter 14. The Stable Temple. Complete mindfulness and the energy of concentration. Settle now even deeper into the profound stillness of the path. Your mind is cleared by the wisdom of the Four Noble Truths, and your heart is guided by the principles of the Eightfold Path. We now move from the map, theory, to the direct continuous practice, meditation, the core of the Buddhist way. Tonight, we integrate the two supreme pillars of concentration, right mindfulness, samasati, and right concentration, samasamadhi, forging the mind into a stable temple impervious to the sudden storms of anger. The practice is simple. Mindfulness is the steady, non-judgmental awareness of what is happening, the anchor, and concentration is the focused, unwavering energy that holds the anchor steady. Without concentration, mindfulness is scattered. Without mindfulness, concentration is rigid and easily broken. Together, they create the unshakable foundation of internal peace. Imagine the tale of an apprentice monk named Toshin, who was tasked with a deceptively simple job, lighting the main altar lamp every evening. The lamp was central to the monastery's ritual, a large, beautiful oil lamp that had to burn brightly and steadily throughout the night. Toshin, however, was struggling. The wick would constantly flicker, smoke, and sometimes, tragically, sputter out completely. He was diligent. He used the finest oil and the best wick, but the flame remained unstable. He would become frustrated, blaming the quality of the oil, the drafts in the hall, or even his own clumsiness. His internal frustration mirrored the unstable flame, causing a rising tide of self-anger and impatience. One evening, he confessed his failure to the abbot, Master Seido, known for his practice of profound inner stillness. Master Seido did not speak of technique or perfection. He spoke only of the flame's nature. "Toshin," the master said, holding a small unlit candle near the main lamp, "your frustration is rooted in your desire to force the flame to be steady. But the flame is a life force. It cannot be forced. It must be supported." He explained that the flame represents sati, mindfulness, the clear light of present awareness. "Look closely at the flame," the master instructed. "It is constantly consuming and changing, rising, wavering, dancing. If you try to stop its dancing, you break its life. Your first task is to become the steady gazer, to observe the flame completely, without judgment, without trying to correct it. This non-judgmental observation is the core of mindfulness." Toshin practiced gazing at the flame. He noted every flicker, every subtle shift in color, every waver. He simply accepted the reality of the unstable flame. When a thought arose, "It's going to go out," he noted the thought and returned his gaze to the flame. Then, Master Seido pointed to the glass chimney surrounding the lamp, a carefully crafted tube that protected the flame from the outside air. "This chimney," the master said, "represents samadhi, concentration. Concentration is not effortful striving. It is the unwavering protection of the awareness. The chimney does not create the flame, but it shields it from the chaotic winds of the world, the distractions, the worries, the external noise. By maintaining your focus, your right effort, you build the invisible shield that allows the light of your awareness to burn brightly, naturally." The master's final, essential instruction was, "When the mind wanders, do not chase the distraction. Do not scold yourself. That is creating a new draft. Simply, gently, bring your awareness back to the steady anchor, the breath, and rebuild the chimney of your focus." Toshin realized that his failure was in his impatience, a form of anger, and his fragmented attention. He had been trying to light the wick with a chaotic mind. He began the practice of being the steady gazer. using the breath as his wick and his unwavering focus as the glass chimney. He found that as his concentration deepened, the flame of his awareness became naturally, effortlessly steady, and the internal storms of frustration and self-criticism were extinguished. The stable temple was built not by fighting the wind, but by perfecting the enclosure. This is the integration of sati and samadhi, the twin engines of liberation. As you lie now, completely surrendered to the deep rest, let us begin to build your stable temple. You are moving from the clarity of insight toward profound, unshakable stability. Samasati, right mindfulness, the steady gazer. Your anchor is your breath and your body. Allow your mind to spread out and mindfully enclose your entire being. Mindfulness of the body, kayanupassana. Feel the sheer weight of your head, the vast space of your back, the effortless rise and fall of your abdomen. Notice any pressure points where your body meets the surface. Do not analyze, just feel. Mindfulness of feelings, Vedananupassana. Note the quality of your feelings right now. Are they pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? For example, pleasant warmth, neutral stillness, slight ache, unpleasant. Do not chase the pleasant or resist the unpleasant. Simply witness their passing quality. Mindfulness of mind states, Chittanupassana. Note the state of your mind. Is it calm, scattered, sleepy, or clear? Label the state gently. Calm mind, drifting mind, sleepy mind. This gentle labeling prevents identification. Mindfulness of phenomena, Dhammanupassana. Observe external sounds, internal memories, or stray emotions as simply phenomena arising and passing, like clouds in the vast sky. Sama Samadhi, right concentration, the glass chimney. The moment you notice your mind wandering, you engage Samadhi, the gentle, unwavering return to the anchor. This is not a struggle. It is a single-pointed dedication to peace. Direct the energy of your focus to the single, most stable point of your experience, the sensation of the long, gentle exhale. Focus intently on the soft, flowing movement of the air leaving your body. Let the sensation of the outbreath become your entire world. The thought of anger, the memory of injustice, the worry about tomorrow. These are just drafts hitting the flame. Do not chase them. Simply use the energy of the distraction to refocus on the exhale. With every deep, full breath, you are reinforcing the glass chimney, making the light of your awareness brighter and more stable. The more unwavering your focus on the breath, the less room there is for the chaotic energy of anger and impatience to survive. The flame is now protected, burning with quiet, stable intensity. Extended contemplation on samadhi and deep sleep. Allow the profound stillness of the Master's teaching to saturate your entire consciousness. You are resting in the core truth that peace is the natural result of unwavering focus. Imagine the beautiful, steady glow of the altar lamp. It is not moving, not flickering. It burns with perfect, effortless stability. This is the state of your mind now, pure, bright, and deeply concentrated on the single, simple reality of the present moment. Let your internal monologue dissolve completely into the stillness. There is no need for words, no need for effort, and no need for vigilance. The chimney is built.
The flame is steady. Feel the deep, restorative energy of samadhi, healing the fragmented parts of your mind. Concentration repairs the inner landscape, sealing the small cracks left by past anxiety and anger. Every cell in your body is now participating in this deep, perfect stillness. Let your breathing become so subtle, so gentle, that it feels almost invisible. You are no longer breathing. You are being breathed by the universe. The stable temple is complete. You are resting inside a fortress of stillness that cannot be breached by any external or internal chaos. Drift now. Drift deeply, carried by the pure, steady light of your own concentration. Sleep completely. The flame is unwavering. Chapter 15. The Flowing River. Integration, unconditional trust, and the return. Settle now, completely merged with the profound stillness you have cultivated. Your consciousness is clear, concentrated, and your body is at rest, held in the unwavering stability of the stable temple. We have traveled the full arc of transformation, from acknowledging the suffering, dukkha, to cooling the anger, tanha, and from practicing the pause, mindfulness, to resting in the unborn peace, nibbana. Tonight, we embrace the final, beautiful truth of Buddhist liberation, dependent origination, paticca samuppada, the realization that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interconnected, constantly flowing, and interdependent. This wisdom allows for unconditional trust in the universe and completes the journey, preparing you to return to the world not as a fighter, but as a flowing river of peace. Imagine the story of a master weaver named Shizuka, whose name means quiet or still. Shizuka lived near a great flowing river and was revered for creating the most complex, beautiful tapestries in the land. Her work was unique because the patterns were never fixed or static. They were dynamic, always seeming to move and flow like the river itself. A young student of weaving, Riku, came to her, utterly frustrated. Riku could weave simple, strong cloth, but his patterns were always rigid and brittle. If a single thread broke or was slightly misplaced, his entire loom would lock up, and Riku would explode in anger and frustration, tearing the cloth apart and starting over. He could not tolerate the inevitable imperfection or interruption that came with weaving. Riku pleaded, "Master Shizuka, how do you manage the chaos? A thread breaks, the color runs, the loom shifts, and yet your tapestry remains beautiful. My anger always destroys my work the moment something goes wrong." Master Shizuka smiled gently, picking up a single, fine silk thread. "Riku," she said softly, "your anger is caused by your belief that the tapestry should be woven by one fixed, perfect thread, the thread of you and your perfect plan. You believe the broken thread is a failure that stops the work." She led him to the riverbank. "Look at the river, Riku. Does the water fight the stone? Does it curse the obstacle? No. When the river meets the stone, it does not stop. It flows around it. It embraces the obstacle, knowing that the stone itself is a condition necessary to shape its path. The stone does not break the river. It gives the river its song." Master Shizuka explained the wisdom of dependent origination. Nothing in life, Riku, is the result of a single cause. The tapestry is beautiful only because of the collaboration of 1,000 conditions. The thread is dependent on the silkworm. The color is dependent on the sun and the dye. The pattern is dependent on the light in the room and the mood of the weaver. Even the broken thread is a condition. It forces the weaver to introduce a new knot, a strength and uniqueness that would not have existed otherwise. She emphasized the profound conclusion.
When you realize that your anger, your frustration, and your suffering are dependent on countless causes and conditions, and not just on the single bad person or the single wrong event, you stop seeing fault and start seeing flow. You realize that the obstacle is part of the pattern. Riku returned to his loom. The next day, a shuttle broke, ruining a section of his work. Instantly the heat rose, but this time Riku remembered the river. He did not curse the broken shuttle. He saw the dependent origination of the incident. The wood was old, condition 1. The humidity was high, condition 2. His own grip was tired, condition 3. There was no single fault, only flow. Instead of tearing the tapestry, he accepted the gap, wove a strong, unique knot to join the threads, and found the resulting pattern was deeper, richer, and more resilient than his original rigid plan. The tapestry began to flow like the river, filled with a trust that even the broken threads served the ultimate design. His anger dissolved because he stopped seeing himself as the sole fixed victim of a solitary mistake. He became the flow itself. This is the final integration of wisdom, seeing the seamless, compassionate truth of the universe. As you lie now, completely surrendered and resting, let this understanding of dependent origination wash over your entire being. You are moving past stability toward profound, unconditional trust. 1. Integration and unconditional trust. Gently review the journey you have taken, seeing each practice as a thread woven into your own tapestry of peace. The breath, mindfulness. The thread of the present moment. Impermanence, anicca, the thread of constant change. No self, anatta, the thread of ultimate liberation from fixed identity. Metta, loving kindness, the thread of unconditional connection. Gratitude, ananda, the thread of acceptance for the dark, rich mud. Now see how anger is merely a tangle caused by believing these threads are separate. When you see them flowing together, there is unconditional trust. Trust in the process. You trust that the difficult person, the stone, is a necessary condition for shaping your character, the river's flow. Trust in the wisdom. You trust that the anger you feel, the heat, is only a temporary, dependent phenomenon that will cool when you withhold the fuel of blame and grasping. Trust in the outcome. You trust that even the most painful broken threads will ultimately lead to a stronger, more beautiful, and resilient pattern in your life. Feel the profound release in your body as you let go of the need to control the outcome. You are surrendering to the vast, wise, flowing current of the universe. There is no need for resistance, no need for anger, because everything is exactly as it needs to be to create the whole, beautiful tapestry. 2. The return, the seamless circle. Your meditation is now complete. The final stage is the return, the integration of the still mind back into the moving world. You are not leaving the peace behind. You are carrying the peace with you as a steady, flowing current. Begin to gently sense the edges of your body again. Feel the texture of the sheets, the temperature of the air, the gentle sounds surrounding you. Do not rush. Move from the vast emptiness of nibbana back to the form of the body, slowly and with grace. As you prepare to transition towards sleep, make a final quiet vow, the vow of the flowing river. When I meet the stone, I will not stop. I will flow around it. I will not curse the mud. I will use it to strengthen my stem.
I am not the tangled thread. I am the vast, trusting, flowing pattern itself. You are not returning to a world of fixed enemies and permanent problems. You are returning to a world of empty boats, no fault, and flowing
Conditions, no fixed outcome. You are not the victim of the current. You are the current itself. Let the profound quiet of this realization carry you now. The journey is complete. The work is done. All that remains is the simple, effortless flow of life into rest. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep completely. You are the river.